Feared by the Wrong Man. A dark romance novel. Prologue. The elevator doors closed with a soft, pneumatic hiss, sealing me inside with the one man I'd spent 3 years trying to avoid. Cormac Brennan. My hands were shaking. I clasped them behind my back, pressed them against the cool metal wall, and prayed he wouldn't notice. 23 floors. Just 23 floors. And then I could escape to the parking garage, drive home, and spend the weekend trying not to think about Monday. Trying not to think about him. He stood 3 feet away, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that probably cost more than my monthly rent. His presence filled the small space like smoke, suffocating and inescapable. 6'3" of controlled power in a charcoal suit that fit him like it had been designed specifically to intimidate people like me. People who were nothing. I stared at the digital floor counter. 19, 18, 17. Please go faster. Ms. Hayes. His voice cut through the silence like a blade, deep, with that faint Irish lilt that turned my name into something formal and distant. I flinched before I could stop myself. Stupid. So stupid. Yes, Mr. Brennan? My voice came out smaller than I intended, professional but quiet. The voice of someone who knew her place. Are you all right? The question was so unexpected that I actually looked at him. That was my second mistake of the evening. The first had been staying late enough that we'd end up in the elevator together. His gray eyes were fixed on me, with an intensity that made my chest tighten. Not angry. I'd seen Cormac Brennan angry, watched him eviscerate a director in a meeting once, with nothing but carefully chosen words, and that cold surgical precision he wielded like a weapon. This was something else, something I couldn't identify because I'd never let myself look at him long enough to learn his expressions. I'm fine, sir, thank you. I dropped my gaze back to the floor numbers. 14, 13. Just keep going, don't stop, please don't stop. You're working late. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Yes, sir, just finishing up some reports from Mr. Vance. Silence. The elevator hummed as it descended. I could feel him still watching me, could sense the weight of his attention like a physical thing pressing against my skin. It's almost 9 o'clock on a Friday night, he said quietly. Those reports could wait until Monday. No, they couldn't. But I didn't say that. Couldn't say that. Because Elliot had been very clear about what would happen if the reports weren't on his desk first thing Monday morning. And Elliot always spoke for Mr. Brennan. Elliot knew what Cormac Brennan wanted, what he expected, what he would tolerate, and what he wouldn't. I wanted to make sure everything was perfect, I said instead. The lie tasted like ash on my tongue, but I'd gotten good at swallowing ash over the past 3 years. Mr. Vance has high standards. Does he? It should have been a question. It came out like a statement, like an accusation. I didn't know how to respond to that, so I said nothing. 10, 9, 8. Almost there, almost safe. Ms. Hayes, look at me. No, absolutely not. Looking at Cormac Brennan was dangerous. It meant he might see too much, might realize how pathetic I was, might decide I wasn't worth keeping around. Elliot said Cormac was always looking for reasons to cut dead weight from the company. Said he had no patience for weakness, for fear, for people who couldn't handle the pressure. Said I was on thin ice, had been for months. Ms. Hayes. His voice dropped lower, took on an edge that made my stomach twist into knots. I asked you a question. My eyes snapped to his. Survival instinct. When Cormac Brennan gave an order, you obeyed. He was frowning. A small crease had formed between his dark eyebrows, and his jaw was tight. Angry. He was angry, and I'd made him angry, and Elliot was going to hear about this, and... You're shaking. 3 words. Quiet. Almost gentle. But they hit me like an accusation. I looked down at my hands, still pressed against the elevator wall behind me. He was right. They were trembling visibly, the kind of full-body tremor I couldn't control anymore. It happened sometimes when I was too tired, too stressed, when I'd gone too many hours without eating because I'd been too anxious to keep anything down. "I'm fine," I whispered. "Just cold, the air conditioning." "You're not cold." The elevator dinged. Ground floor. The doors slid open, revealing the empty marble lobby, the security desk where Marcus sat reading something on his phone, oblivious to the small disaster happening 10 feet away. I should have moved. Should have stepped out immediately. Put distance between myself and Cormac Brennan, and this conversation that felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. But my legs wouldn't work. Cormac stepped forward, blocking the elevator doors with his body so they couldn't close. He was between me and escape now, and panic spiked hot and sharp in my chest. "How long have you been afraid of me?" The question was so quiet I almost didn't hear it, so unexpected that my brain couldn't process it for several long seconds. "I'm not," I started. "Don't lie." His voice was still soft, but there was steel underneath. "I've watched you for 2 years, Miss Hayes. You avoid me in hallways. You leave rooms when I enter them. In meetings you won't make eye contact. And right now you're shaking so hard you can barely stand, and it's not because you're cold." 2 years. He'd been watching me for 2 years. The thought made me want to vomit. "I'm sorry," I heard myself say. The words came automatically. The same apology I'd given Elliot 1,000 times. "I'm sorry, Mr. Brennan. I'll do better. I'll—" "Stop." He held up a hand and I fell silent immediately. "Stop apologizing. I'm not." He broke off, ran a hand through his dark hair in a gesture that looked almost frustrated. "I'm not trying to frighten you more. I'm trying to understand why you're frightened at all. Because Elliot said you hate me. Because Elliot said you think I'm incompetent. Because Elliot said you're looking for any excuse to fire me. And if I make one more mistake, one more error, show one more sign of weakness, you'll destroy me. Because Elliot said you destroy everyone who disappoints you." But I couldn't say any of that. Couldn't tell Cormac Brennan that his own COO had painted him as a monster in my mind. Couldn't risk Elliot finding out I'd broken the unspoken rule about keeping our conversations private. What happens between us stays between us, Isla. Mr. Brennan doesn't need to know about your performance issues. Not yet. Not unless you force my hand. "I'm just tired," I said instead. "It's been a long week. I'm sorry if I gave the impression." "You gave the impression that you're terrified of me." Cormac's eyes hadn't left my face, and I need to know why. "I'm not." "Isla." My first name. He'd never used my first name before. The sound of it in his voice, with that accent curling around the syllables, did something strange to my nervous system. Made the fear spike higher even as something else flickered underneath it. Something I didn't have a name for. "Please," he said, and the word was so gentle it almost broke me. "Please tell me why you're afraid." I couldn't. The words were locked behind my teeth, trapped by 3 years of Elliot's careful conditioning, by the terror of what would happen if I spoke. "He'll fire you. He'll ruin you. He'll make sure you never work in this industry again." The elevator doors tried to close. Cormac's arm shot out, held them open without even looking. "Has someone hurt you?" he asked. "Here, at the company, has someone—" "No." The lie came quick and sharp. "No, Mr. Brennan. Everyone's been very professional." His jaw tightened. "That's not what I asked." I should go. I finally found the strength to move, to take a step toward the open doors. "It's late, and I need to get home." He moved aside immediately, didn't try to stop me, didn't block my path, but as I stepped past him, I felt his hand touch my elbow, the lightest pressure, barely there. I froze. "Isla." He said my name again, and this time I heard something in his voice I couldn't identify. "If someone is hurting you, I need you to tell me. I can't fix what I don't know is broken." I looked up at him, really looked at him for the first time in 3 years. Cormac Brennan was beautiful in the way sharp things were beautiful. All hard angles and controlled strength, with a face that could have been carved from stone. But his eyes weren't cold. They weren't cruel. They were concerned. He looked concerned. "That's not possible," Elliot said. But Elliot had said a lot of things. And standing here, looking into Cormac Brennan's eyes, I couldn't reconcile the monster Elliot had described with the man in front of me. "I'm fine," I whispered. "I promise. Just tired." He studied me for a long moment, and I could see him deciding whether to believe me, deciding whether to push. Finally, he stepped back, released my elbow. "Let me go." "Get some rest this weekend," he said quietly. "And Ms. Hayes, if you ever want to talk about anything, my door is open. Do you understand?" I nodded. I didn't believe him, but I nodded. "Good night, Mr. Brennan." "Good night, Isla." I walked across the lobby on legs that felt like water, made it to my car in the parking garage, locked the doors, and then I sat there in the darkness, hands gripping the steering wheel, and tried to understand what had just happened. Cormac Brennan had been kind to me. Gentle. Concerned. Everything Elliot said he wasn't. My phone buzzed. A text from Elliot. "Saw you leaving late. Good. The reports better be flawless. CB's in a mood this week. Don't give him any reason to notice you." Too late for that. I stared at the message, then up at the building where Cormac Brennan was probably still working. Lights glowed in the top floor, his office. I could almost imagine him up there, looking down at the city, wondering about the assistant, who shook like a leaf in his presence. "Has someone hurt you?" Yes, I wanted to scream. Yes, someone has been hurting me for 3 years, slowly and methodically, until I don't recognize myself anymore. Until I'm this terrified, anxious thing that can barely function without having a panic attack. But I couldn't tell him that. Because the person hurting me was Elliot Vance. And Elliot Vance was Cormac Brennan's most trusted executive. His right hand. His friend. Who would he believe? The COO he'd worked with for a decade, or the assistant who couldn't even look him in the eye? I started the car and drove home through the dark Boston streets and tried not to think about the way Cormac Brennan had said my name. Tried not to wonder what it would feel like to tell him the truth. Tried not to hope. Because hope was dangerous. Hope got you destroyed. Cormac. I stood in the empty lobby and watched Isla Hayes walk away. She moved like someone expecting to be struck, shoulders hunched, steps quick and precise, every movement calculated to take up as little space as possible, like she was trying to disappear even as she crossed the marble floor in plain sight. How long have I been blind? 2 years. That's how long I'd been watching her. Noticing the way she tensed when I entered a room. The way she found excuses to leave meetings early when I was present. The way her hands shook when she had to hand me documents directly. I'd thought it was shyness, professional deference to the CEO, maybe a bit of social anxiety. Plenty of brilliant people struggled with that, and Isla Hayes was undeniably brilliant. I'd seen her work. The reports she produced for Elliot were flawless, the analyses sharp and insightful. But tonight, trapped in the elevator with nowhere to hide, I'd finally seen the truth. She wasn't shy. She was terrified. Of me. The realization sat in my chest like a stone. I'd built this company from nothing, fought my way up from poverty in Dublin to wealth in Boston, and I'd never once had someone look at me the way Isla Hayes had looked at me tonight. Like I was going to hurt her. "Has someone hurt you?" She'd said no, but everything about her body language had screamed yes. I pulled out my phone and dialed Elliot's number. He answered on the second ring. "Cormac, everything all right?" "Your assistant," I said. "Isla Hayes. How's she doing?" A pause. Just a fraction of a second, but I caught it. "Fine. Why do you ask?" "She was working late tonight. Looked exhausted." "Ah." Elliot's voice took on that smooth, understanding tone he used when managing up. "Yes, I've been pushing her pretty hard lately. Big presentation on Monday, but she's handling it well. Good kid, just needs to build her stamina. Good kid, like she was a child instead of a 27-year-old woman with a master's degree." "Maybe ease up a bit," I said. "It's Friday night. She shouldn't be here past 9. "Of course, I'll talk to her." Another pause. Did something happen? She didn't complain, did she? The question was casual, too casual. No, I said. Just ran into her in the elevator. She looked like she hadn't slept in a week. I'll make sure she takes the weekend to rest. Thanks for the heads up. He hung up before I could respond. I stood there in the empty lobby, phone in my hand, and replayed the conversation in my mind. Something about it felt wrong. Off-key, like a note played just slightly flat. Did something happen? She didn't complain, did she? Why would that be Elliot's first question? I took the elevator back up to my office. The building was empty now, just security making their rounds and the cleaning crew working through the floors. My office took up half of the 23rd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston, minimalist furniture, everything designed for efficiency and control. I'd built this empire, every square foot of it. And somehow, I'd missed the fact that one of my employees was being destroyed right under my nose. I opened my laptop and pulled up Isla Hayes' employment file. Hired 3 years ago, executive assistant to Elliot Vance. Bachelor's degree in economics from a state school, master's in business analytics from Northeastern. Graduated with honors despite working 2 jobs to pay for it. No family money, no connections. She'd earned everything herself. Her performance reviews were interesting. The first 6 months were glowing. Exceptional attention to detail, quick learner, excellent communication skills. Then they started to change. Shows promise but needs to improve time management. Work quality inconsistent, requires frequent supervision. Improvement needed in multiple areas. Under review. The most recent one, from 2 months ago, adequate performance, continued employment contingent on improvement plan. I frowned at the screen. These reviews didn't match the work I'd seen from her. Every report that crossed my desk with her name on it was perfect. Better than perfect, insightful, thorough, exactly what I needed. So why was Elliot giving her negative reviews? I pulled up her time logs. My frown deepened. 60 hours last week, 70 the week before, 85 the week before that. She was working double what anyone else in the company worked. And according to Elliot's reviews, she was barely adequate. Something was very, very wrong. I picked up my phone and texted my head of security. Need you to pull security footage. Isla Hayes' desk area. Last 3 months, specifically her interactions with Elliot Vance. The response came immediately. On it. Should have it by Monday. I set the phone down and stared out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Isla Hayes was driving home, probably still shaking, still afraid. Of me. Because someone had convinced her I was a threat. And I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly who that someone was. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister, Maeve. Still at the office? It's Friday night, Cor. You need a life. I smiled despite myself. Maeve had been trying to get me to slow down for years. She didn't understand that the work was the life. That building something from nothing, creating jobs, making an empire, that was what I was meant to do. Working on something important, I texted back. You're always working on something important. Come to dinner tomorrow. Bring a date if you can find one. I could find one, I just didn't want one. Relationships were complicated, messy, vulnerable. I'd learned that lesson the hard way a decade ago, and I had no interest in repeating it. But the image of Isla Hayes' face flashed through my mind, those wide, frightened eyes, the tremor in her hands. The way she'd looked at me when I'd said her name, like she couldn't quite believe I was being kind. Has someone hurt you? I needed to know the answer to that question. Not just for the company's sake, but for my own. Because the idea that someone was being abused under my roof, in my building with my name being used as a weapon, that was unacceptable. I pulled up Elliot's file next. We'd worked together for 8 years. He'd been my first major hire when the company started to grow. Brought in to handle operations while I focused on strategy and growth. He was good at his job, efficient, organized, ruthless when necessary. Ruthless. I'd always seen that as an asset. Elliot got things done. He didn't let emotions cloud his judgment. He made the hard calls. But what if that ruthlessness extended beyond business decisions? I scrolled through his employment history. 3 assistants in 8 years. That seemed high, especially compared to other executives who kept the same assistant for decades. I clicked on the file for his previous assistant, Jennifer Ward. Hired 4 years ago, quit after 14 months. Exit interview cited personal reasons for leaving. Before her, Marcus Riley, lasted 18 months. Exit interview, pursuing other opportunities. Before him, Sarah Chen, 10 months. Family obligations. 3 assistants, all leaving after relatively short periods, all with vague exit interview explanations. And now Isla Hayes, approaching her 3-year anniversary but looking like she was barely holding on. I made another note on my phone: pull exit interviews. Full transcripts if available. Then I leaned back in my chair and tried to piece together the puzzle. Elliot was abusing his assistants. That was the theory forming in my mind. Not physically. I would have noticed physical injuries, and security footage would have caught that. But psychologically, gaslighting, manipulation, impossible standards, constant criticism. Using my name to do it. C.B. wants this perfect. C.B. noticed your mistakes. C.B. is losing patience with you. How long had this been going on? How many people had suffered because I was too focused on growth and profit margins to notice what was happening right under my nose? My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from an unknown number. Mr. Brennan, this is Isla Hayes. I apologize for texting on your personal line. Mr. Vance asked me to send you the updated Q3 projections. They're attached. Again, my apologies for the intrusion. I stared at the message. It was nearly 10 o'clock on a Friday night, and she was still working, still apologizing for things that didn't require apologies. I opened the attachment. The projections were immaculate, detailed, comprehensive, color-coded for easy reference. This had taken hours to prepare. I texted back, "Thank you, Ms. Hayes. This is excellent work. Please take the weekend off. You've earned it." 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Thank you, sir. Have a good weekend." I set the phone down and made a decision. Monday morning, I was going to get to the bottom of this. I was going to find out exactly what Elliot Vance had been doing to his assistants. And if my suspicions were correct, if he'd been torturing Isla Hayes for 3 years while using my name to do it, I was going to destroy him. But more than that, I was going to make sure Isla Hayes understood something crucial. She'd been afraid of the wrong man all along. I made it home at 10:30 and collapsed on my couch without bothering to turn on the lights. My apartment was small, a studio in Alston that I could barely afford even with my salary, but it was mine. The only space in the world where I didn't have to perform, didn't have to be perfect, didn't have to be afraid. Except tonight, I'd brought the fear home with me. I kept replaying the elevator conversation, Cormac Brennan's voice, the way he'd looked at me, the gentleness in his tone when he'd said, "Please tell me why you're afraid." I'd wanted to tell him, I'd wanted to tell him everything. 3 years of torture condensed into one desperate confession. But the words had stuck in my throat, trapped by Elliot's voice in my head. What happens between us stays between us. CB doesn't need to know about your performance issues. I'm protecting you, Isla. If he knew how much you were struggling, you'd be gone already. My phone buzzed. I looked at it, expecting another message from Elliot with more impossible demands. Instead, I saw Cormac Brennan's name. "Thank you, Miss Hayes. This is excellent work. Please take the weekend off. You've earned it." I stared at the message until the words blurred. Excellent work. You've earned it. Take the weekend off. When was the last time Elliot had said any of those things? When was the last time he'd acknowledged that I'd done something right, instead of cataloging everything I'd done wrong? I couldn't remember. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to say more than just, "Thank you." Wanted to ask if he'd meant what he said in the elevator, if his door was really open, if I could trust him. But Elliot's warning echoed in my mind. Don't bother CB with trivial matters. He has more important things to worry about than your feelings. So I sent the safe response. "Thank you, sir. Have a good weekend." Then I set the phone down and stared at my dark ceiling. For the first time in 3 years, a tiny seed of doubt had been planted. What if Elliot had been lying? What if Cormac Brennan didn't hate me, didn't think I was incompetent, didn't want me fired? What if the monster I'd been running from was actually the man who'd been standing beside me all along? I fell asleep on the couch with that thought circling in my mind, and for the first time in months, I didn't have nightmares about being fired. I had dreams about gray eyes and an Irish accent saying my name like it mattered. Like I mattered. Chapter 1, The Performance Review. Isla. Monday morning arrived with all the mercy of a firing squad. I'd spent the weekend in a haze of anxiety and confusion, replaying the elevator encounter until I'd memorized every word, every inflection, every micro-expression on Cormac Brennan's face. By Sunday night, I'd convinced myself I'd imagined the kindness in his voice, that I had projected what I wanted to hear onto a simple interaction, that come Monday, everything would go back to normal. I was right about that last part, at least. Elliot's email arrived at 6:47 a.m., before I'd even made it to the office. My office. 7:30 a.m. sharp. "We need to discuss your performance." My hands shook as I read it, coffee sloshing over the rim of my travel mug and burning my fingers. I barely felt it. The pain was distant, irrelevant compared to the ice spreading through my chest. "We need to discuss your performance." That phrase. I'd learned to dread it over the past 3 years. It never meant what it should mean. A balanced review of strengths and weaknesses, areas for growth, acknowledgement of achievements. When Elliot said those words, it meant something else entirely. It meant I was about to be torn apart. I arrived at the office at 7:15, giving myself time to prepare. The Brennan Corp building was already humming with early arrivals, ambitious executives trying to impress, workaholics who lived for the job, people like me who'd learned that staying ahead of expectations was the only way to survive. Elliot's office was on the 20th floor, a corner suite with windows overlooking the harbor. Not as grand as Cormac's penthouse office on the 23rd floor, but impressive enough to remind you of his importance, his authority, his power over you. I knocked at exactly 7:30. "Come in." I pushed open the door and stepped into the lion's den. Elliot sat behind his desk, looking every inch the successful executive. 42, salt and pepper hair styled perfectly, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He didn't look up from his computer screen as I entered. "Close the door, Isla. Sit." I obeyed, perching on the edge of the leather chair across from his desk. My hands were clasped in my lap, knuckles white. He let me sit in silence for a full minute, still typing, still not looking at me. It was a power play. I knew that. Make her wait, make her anxious, let the fear build. It worked every time. Finally, he closed his laptop and looked at me. His expression was pleasant, almost friendly. That was worse than anger. Elliot's cruelty always came wrapped in a smile. "How was your weekend?" he asked. "Fine, thank you, sir." "Good, good." He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "I wanted to touch base about the Q3 projections you sent to CB on Friday night." My stomach dropped. Was there a problem? I triple-checked everything, and No, the work itself was fine. He waved a hand dismissively. "But we need to talk about the fact that you sent it directly to him." I blinked. "You told me to send it to his personal line." "I told you to send it to me, and I would forward it to him." Elliot's voice remained pleasant, but his eyes had gone cold. "You went over my head, Isla. That's not how the chain of command works." I fumbled for my phone, pulled up his text message from Friday night. "Send the updated Q3 projections to CB, his personal line. You said—" "I know what I said." He didn't even glance at my phone, and now I'm clarifying. "In the future, all communications with Mr. Brennan go through me first. Understood?" "Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "It's fine." He smiled. "We all make mistakes. Though I have to tell you, CB mentioned your late-night message. He wasn't pleased about being disturbed on his personal line after hours." The words hit like a slap. He texted back that it was excellent work. He was being polite, Isla. Elliot's voice took on that patient, condescending tone he used when explaining things to me like I was a child. "Mr. Brennan is a gentleman. He's not going to be rude to you directly. But he told me this morning that he found the contact inappropriate, that you seem to be overstepping boundaries." No, that couldn't be right. Cormac had been kind to me on Friday, had told me to take the weekend off, that I'd earned it, had said his door was open if I needed to talk. But Elliot wouldn't lie about something like that. He and Cormac spoke every day. They were friends. They trusted each other. And I was just an assistant who'd sent one text message. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I won't contact him directly again." "Good." Elliot opened a folder on his desk, pulled out several pages. "Now let's talk about your overall performance. I've been reviewing your work over the past quarter, and I have some concerns. Here it comes. Your time management continues to be an issue. You're working excessive hours, which suggests inefficiency. A good assistant should be able to complete her tasks within a standard workday. I worked excessive hours because he gave me excessive work, because he'd send emails at 11 p.m. with tasks due by 7 a.m. Because the standard workload he assigned would take 2 people to complete, and when I'd suggested hiring additional support, he told me that CB would see it as a sign of weakness. But I didn't say any of that. I'll work on my efficiency, I said. Please do. Additionally, your communication skills need improvement. Several executives have mentioned that you seem timid, hesitant. Mr. Brennan particularly values confidence. I understand. Do you? He leaned forward, and I caught a glimpse of something ugly beneath the pleasant mask. Because from where I'm sitting, Isla, it looks like you're struggling, and I'm running out of ways to explain that to CB when he asks why my assistant seems incapable of handling basic tasks. The words were designed to hurt, to make me feel small, incompetent, worthless, and they worked. I'm trying my best, I said quietly. Your best isn't good enough. He slid a document across the desk. This is a performance improvement plan. 30 days. You'll need to meet specific metrics, detailed here, or we'll have to reconsider your position. I picked up the document with trembling hands. The metrics were impossible. Complete all assigned tasks within an 8-hour workday. Demonstrate initiative by proposing 3 new efficiency improvements per week. Maintain a positive attitude and professional demeanor at all times. How was I supposed to complete his workload in 8 hours when it currently took me 12? How was I supposed to propose improvements when he shot down every suggestion I made? How was I supposed to maintain a positive attitude when every interaction with him left me feeling like I was drowning? Do you understand what's being asked of you? Elliot's voice had gone soft, dangerous. Yes, sir. Good, because Isla, I need you to understand something. He stood, walked around the desk, and perched on the edge directly in front of me. Too close. Invading my space. I've been protecting you. For 3 years, I've been running interference between you and CB, making excuses for your mistakes, covering for your inadequacies. But my patience has limits. I looked up at him, and he smiled, that same pleasant, friendly smile that never reached his eyes. CB wants excellence. He demands it. And right now, you're not delivering. If you don't turn this around in the next 30 days, I won't be able to protect you anymore. Do you understand what that means? I understood it meant I'd be fired, blacklisted, destroyed. I understand. Excellent. He walked back around his desk, sat down, and opened his laptop, like the conversation was over. You can go. Oh, and Isla? I need those efficiency proposals by end of day. Let's start the improvement plan strong. I stood on shaking legs. Today? But is that going to be a problem? Yes. I have a full day of work already scheduled. I have meetings, reports, a presentation to prepare. No, sir. No problem. Wonderful. Close the door on your way out. I made it to the bathroom before the panic attack hit. The stall was cold. The tile was hard beneath my knees. I pressed my forehead against the metal divider and tried to remember how to breathe. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. The breathing technique my therapist had taught me back when I could afford therapy before I'd given it up to make rent wasn't working. My chest was too tight, my lungs weren't cooperating, and the world was spinning in slow, nauseating circles. You're not good enough. You'll never be good enough. He's going to fire you, and you'll lose everything. Elliot's voice mixed with older voices. Foster parents who'd told me I was too much trouble. Professors who'd questioned whether I belonged in graduate school. The voice in my own head that whispered I was an imposter. That I'd fooled everyone into thinking I was competent when really I was just barely holding it together. 30 days. I had 30 days to meet impossible standards, or I'd be fired. And if I was fired from Brennan Corp., if I had a termination on my record from one of Boston's most prestigious companies, who would hire me? Where would I go? I'd end up back where I started, broke, desperate, working 3 jobs just to survive. Or worse. Breathe. Just breathe. Slowly, gradually, the panic subsided. The world stopped spinning. My lungs remembered how to function. I stood on shaking legs, left the stall, and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like a ghost. Pale skin, dark circles under my eyes, hair already escaping the tight bun I'd pulled it into this morning. I looked exhausted, beaten down. I looked exactly how I felt. My phone buzzed. An email from Elliot. Forgot to mention, CB needs the Henderson analysis revised. He said the methodology section is unclear. Can you fix it by noon? I stared at the message. The Henderson analysis was 40 pages long. Revising the methodology section would take hours of work. It was 8:15 a.m. now. Can you fix it by noon? Not can you prioritize this, or when can you have this done? Can you fix it by noon? A question that wasn't really a question. I typed back, of course. I'll have it to you by noon. Then I splashed cold water on my face, reapplied the lipstick I kept in my purse for emergencies, and walked back to my desk with my head held high. Because that's what you did when you were drowning. You pretended you could swim. Cormac. I saw her at 8:47 a.m. walking from the bathroom with a smile that looked painted on. I'd come down to the 20th floor to grab files from the shared drive. Something my assistant could have done, but I'd wanted an excuse to check in. To see if Isla Hayes looked as exhausted today as she had Friday night. She looked worse. The smile disappeared the moment she thought no one was watching. Her shoulders slumped. Her hands shook as she set down her coffee cup. And as she sat at her desk outside Elliot's office, I saw her close her eyes and take a deep, shuddering breath. Like she was gathering strength just to face the day. I stepped back around the corner before she could see me watching, pulled out my phone and texted my head of security. Where's that footage I asked for? The response came immediately, compiling now, should have a preliminary report by this afternoon. I need it sooner. On it. I started to head back to the elevator, then stopped, turned around, walked toward Isla's desk. She didn't notice me until I was standing directly in front of her. When she looked up and saw me, the color drained from her face. Mr. Brennan. She stood so quickly her chair rolled backward. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Is there something you need? Sit down, Miss Hayes. I'm not here to put you to work. I kept my voice gentle, non-threatening. I just wanted to check in, see how your weekend was. She sat slowly, like she expected the chair to collapse beneath her. It was fine, sir. Thank you for asking. Did you rest? Take some time for yourself? Yes, sir. She was lying. I could see it in the tension around her eyes, the way her fingers twisted together in her lap. She'd spent the weekend working or worrying, or both. Good. I meant what I said Friday night. You worked too hard. I paused. The Q3 projections you sent were excellent, by the way. Exactly what I needed. Her eyes widened slightly. "Thank you, sir. I'm glad they were helpful." "Very helpful. Best analysis I've seen all quarter." I watched her face carefully. "I'm curious, though. How long did those take you to prepare?" She hesitated. "A few hours." "A few hours on a Friday night, when you should have been home resting." I wanted to make sure they were thorough. They were more than thorough. They were exceptional. I leaned against the edge of her desk. "Ms. Hayes, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sir." "Why do you think I expect you to work 80-hour weeks?" The question clearly caught her off guard. I don't. "Because you do work 80-hour weeks. I've seen the logs, and I'm trying to understand why you think that's necessary." She opened her mouth, closed it, looked down at her hands. "I just want to do good work," she said finally. "You do excellent work, in half the time most people would take." I kept my voice level, professional. "So why are you killing yourself?" "I'm not." She stopped, took a breath. "Mr. Vance has high standards. I'm trying to meet them." "Elliot's standards or mine?" Her eyes snapped to my face. "Sir? You said you want to do good work. For whom? Elliot or me?" The trap was subtle, but I saw her fall into it. Saw the panic flash across her face as she tried to figure out the right answer. "Both," she said carefully. "I want to meet the company's standards." "The company's standards don't require you to work yourself into exhaustion." I straightened. "Miss Hayes, I'm going to be direct with you. You're one of the most talented analysts we have. Your work is consistently excellent, but you look like you haven't slept in a month, and I'm concerned." "I'm fine." "You're not fine, and I need you to understand something." I waited until she looked at me. Really looked at me. "If you're struggling, if the workload is too much, if something else is going on, I need to know. Because I can't fix problems I'm not aware of." It was almost word for word what I'd said in the elevator. And just like Friday night, I saw her waver. Saw the words rising to her lips. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down. I saw her face go even paler. "I'm sorry, Mr. Brennan. I have a deadline at noon, and I should." "Of course, I won't keep you." I stepped back. "But remember what I said. My door is open." "Thank you, sir." I walked away, but not before I saw her pick up the phone with shaking hands. Saw her read whatever message had just destroyed the fragile moment we'd been building. And I made a decision. Whatever was happening here, whatever Elliot was doing to her, it ended today. I went straight to my office and called my head of security. "Patrick, that footage, I need it now." "I'm still compiling." "Now, Patrick, whatever you have, send it to me." 10 minutes later, a video file appeared in my email. I opened it and watched 3 years of psychological torture condensed into 15 minutes of carefully selected clips. Elliot leaning over Isla's desk, voice too quiet for the camera to pick up, while she nodded and shrank into her chair. Elliot in the conference room, publicly criticizing a presentation she'd prepared, while she stood silently and took it. Elliot handing her a stack of files at 6 p.m. and saying something that made her shoulders slump. Elliot, Elliot, Elliot. And through it all, Isla getting smaller, quieter, more afraid. But it was the final clip that made my blood run cold. 3 weeks ago, Isla leaving Elliot's office with tears streaming down her face. She'd walked to the bathroom, shoulders shaking, and Elliot had watched her go with a small, satisfied smile. I closed the laptop and sat in silence. Then I picked up my phone and called my attorney. "Marcus, I need you to pull every piece of communication between Elliot Vance and his current and former assistants. Emails, texts, performance reviews, everything. That's a lot of data. I don't care how long it takes. I want it all. And Marcus, I want to know if we have grounds for termination." "On what basis?" "Harassment, abuse of power, creating a hostile work environment. Pick one." A pause. "This is serious, Cormac." "I know. That's why I'm calling you." I hung up and stared out at the Boston skyline. Elliot Vance had been my friend, my COO, the man I'd trusted to run half this company while I focused on growth. And he'd been torturing his assistants, using my name to do it, making them afraid of me so they'd never come forward. How many people had he destroyed? How many talented employees had we lost because Elliot got off on breaking them? How many times had I walked past Isla Hayes without seeing the terror in her eyes? My intercom buzzed. "Mr. Brennan, Elliot Vance is here to see you." Perfect timing. "Send him in." Elliot walked in with his usual confidence, smiling like we were old friends about to discuss quarterly profits. "Cormac, got a minute?" "For you? Always. Sit." He sat, crossed one leg over the other, completely at ease. "I wanted to touch base about the Henderson analysis. Isla's revising it now, should have it to you by noon." "Is that so?" "Yeah. I gave her some feedback this morning. The methodology section needed work." He shrugged. "She's capable, but she needs a firm hand." I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in 8 years I saw him clearly. The charm was a mask. The competence was real, but it covered something rotten underneath. He got off on control, on power, on making people smaller so he could feel bigger. And I'd given him free rein to do it. "Elliot," I said quietly, "how long have you been abusing your assistants?" The smile faltered, just for a second. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. How long?" "Cormac, I have no idea what you're talking about." He laughed, but it sounded forced. "Abusing? That's a strong word." "Is it?" "Because I've been watching footage of you with Isla Hayes, and what I'm seeing looks a hell of a lot like abuse." His expression shifted. The charm dropped away, replaced by something colder. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been monitoring my employees, something I should have been doing all along." I stood. "You're done, Elliot. Pack your things. Security will escort you out by end of day." "You can't be serious." He stood too, hands clenched. "Over what?" "Managing my assistant? Maintaining standards?" "Over 3 years of psychological torture. Over using my name to terrorize people. Over creating a hostile work environment that I'm fairly certain violates about a dozen labor laws. You have no proof. I have footage. I have emails. I have performance reviews that contradict the quality of work I've personally seen. And I have 3 former assistants who I'm guessing will be very interested in talking to my lawyers." I walked to the door, opened it. "You're done. And if you ever come near Isla Hayes again, I'll make sure you're more than just unemployed." For a moment, I thought he might argue. Might try to spin this, to talk his way out the way he'd talked his way into my trust. Then his expression hardened into pure hatred. "She got to you, didn't she? Poor, pathetic Isla. What did she tell you? That I was mean to her? That I hurt her feelings?" "She didn't tell me anything. She's too afraid of you to speak." I stepped closer. "But that ends now." "You're making a mistake, Cormac. That girl is incompetent. She's barely holding it together. I've been protecting her. Get out of my office. Now, before I have security remove you." He left, but not before giving me a look that promised this wasn't over. I didn't care. I had bigger problems. Like figuring out how to convince Isla Hayes that she'd spent 3 years being afraid of the wrong man. And that the man who actually wanted to destroy her was already gone. Chapter 2. The Discovery. Isla. I finished the Henderson analysis at 11:47 a.m., exactly 13 minutes before Elliot's deadline. My eyes burned from staring at the computer screen. My hands ached from typing. I had skipped breakfast, forgotten about the coffee that had gone cold on my desk, and ignored the 3 bathroom breaks my bladder desperately needed because I couldn't afford to lose the time. But it was done. I read through the methodology section one final time, checking for errors that weren't there, because Elliot always found something wrong. Always. Even when the work was perfect, he'd find a reason to criticize, a way to make me feel like I'd failed. The document was flawless. I knew it was flawless, but my finger still hovered over the send button for a full minute before I could bring myself to press it. 2. Elliot Vance. Subject. Henderson Analysis. Revised. Mr. Vance. Please find the revised Henderson analysis attached. I've restructured the methodology section for clarity, and expanded the data validation framework as discussed. Let me know if you need any additional revisions. Best, Isla Hayes. I hit send. It immediately felt the familiar wave of anxiety. Had I been too formal? Not formal enough? Should I have apologized for the initial version being unclear? Should I have? My email pinged. Out of office. I will be out of the office for the remainder of the day. For urgent matters, please contact Cormac Brennan directly. I stared at the auto-reply, a cold feeling spreading through my chest. Elliot never left early. Never. He was always here before me and stayed after I left. His dedication to the job was one of the things he constantly reminded me I should emulate. So why was he gone at noon on a Monday? My desk phone rang. I jumped, nearly knocking over my cold coffee. Isla Hayes. Ms. Hayes, this is Garrett from security. Mr. Brennan has requested your presence in his office. I'll escort you up. My heart stopped. What? Why? He didn't say, ma'am. I'm just following instructions. Is this about, did I do something wrong? I really couldn't say. I'll be at your desk in 2 minutes. He hung up before I could ask more questions. I sat frozen, my mind racing through every possible scenario. Cormac wanted to see me. In his office. With a security escort. This was it. This was the moment Elliot had been warning me about for 3 years. CB had finally lost patience. He was going to fire me personally. Probably wanted to make an example of me, to show everyone what happened when you failed to meet Brennan Corp standards. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Isla, it's Elliot. Using my personal phone, don't go to CB's office. Tell security you're feeling ill and need to go home. Trust me on this. I read the message 3 times, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Elliot was telling me to refuse a direct summons from the CEO. That seemed wrong, dangerous, but Elliot knew Cormac better than anyone. If he was warning me, there had to be a reason. I started typing a response, but before I could finish, Garrett appeared at my desk. He was a large man, ex-military by the look of him, with kind eyes that didn't match his intimidating frame. Miss Hayes? Ready to head up? I glanced at my phone, at Elliot's warning. Actually, I'm not feeling well. Could we reschedule? Garrett's expression didn't change. Mr. Brennan was very clear that he needed to see you immediately. I'm sure it won't take long. But Ma'am, his voice softened. Between you and me, you're not in trouble. Mr. Brennan specifically told me to make sure you knew that. He just needs to speak with you. I'm not in trouble. But that couldn't be right. Why else would the CEO summon me with a security escort? Why else would Elliot warn me to stay away? Unless Elliot was lying. The thought hit me like ice water. What if Elliot had been lying about everything? What if Cormac Brennan wasn't the monster Elliot had painted him as? What if I'd been afraid of the wrong man all along? Ms. Hayes? Garrett's voice pulled me back. We really should go. I stood on shaking legs, picked up my phone, and made a choice. Okay, let's go. The elevator ride to the 23rd floor felt like ascending to my own execution. Garrett stood beside me, silent and professional. I kept my eyes on the floor numbers, watching them climb. 15, 16, 17. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Elliot. Isla, this is serious. Do not meet with CB alone. He's setting you up. I can't explain now, but you need to trust me. Leave the building, now. I looked at the message, then at Garrett's reflection in the polished elevator doors. Garrett? My voice came out small. Can I ask you something? Of course. Am I actually in trouble? You can tell me the truth. He looked at me and something like sympathy crossed his face. Ms. Hayes, I've worked security here for 6 years. I've seen Mr. Brennan fire people. I've seen him tear apart executives in meetings. I've seen him angry. He paused. What I saw on his face when he asked me to bring you up, that wasn't anger, that was concern. The elevator dinged. 23. The doors opened onto a reception area I'd only seen once before, during my initial interview 3 years ago. Everything was glass and steel and minimalist luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. A receptionist sat at a sleek desk, typing away on a computer that probably cost more than my car. She looked up and smiled. "Ms. Hayes, Mr. Brennan is expecting you. Go right in." Garrett gestured toward the massive double doors at the end of the hall. "I'll wait here. Take your time." I walked toward those doors on legs that felt disconnected from my body. Each step echoed on the marble floor. Too loud. Too real. I raised my hand to knock, but before I could, the door opened. Cormac Brennan stood in the doorway, and for the second time in 4 days, I had to reconcile the man in front of me with the monster Elliot had described. He wasn't wearing a jacket. His sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms that were surprisingly muscular for a man who worked behind a desk. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it, and his eyes, those gray eyes that I'd been so afraid to meet, looked tired. "Ms. Hayes, thank you for coming." His voice was gentle, the same gentle tone from the elevator. "Please, come in." I stepped into his office and tried not to gape. It was massive. Easily 3 times the size of Elliot's office, with windows on 2 walls that made you feel like you were floating above the city. There was a sitting area with leather couches, a conference table that could seat 12, and his desk, a beautiful piece of dark wood that looked antique and expensive. But what caught my attention was the wall of photographs. Unlike Elliot's office, which was decorated with awards and framed articles about his achievements, Cormac's wall was covered with pictures of people. A woman who looked like him, laughing at the camera. An older couple standing in front of what looked like a pub. A group photo of what must have been the company's early days. Maybe 10 people crowded into a small office, grinning like they'd just won the lottery. These were memories, connections, people who mattered. "Sit, please." Cormac gestured to the sitting area. "Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" "I'm fine, thank you." I perched on the edge of the leather couch, hands clasped in my lap. "Mr. Brennan, if this is about the Henderson analysis, I can revise it again. Or if there was a problem with the Q3 projections, I can." Isla. He sat across from me, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "This isn't about your work. Your work is exceptional. This is about something else entirely." My phone buzzed in my pocket. Elliot again, probably. I ignored it. "I'm not sure I understand," I said carefully. "I know you don't, and that's my fault." He ran a hand through his hair, and I realized he was nervous. Cormac Brennan, the man who commanded rooms full of powerful executives, was nervous. "I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen with an open mind. Can you do that?" "Yes, sir." "First, stop calling me sir in private. My name is Cormac." He met my eyes. "Second, Elliot Vance is no longer with the company. I fired him this morning." The world tilted. "You? What?" "I fired Elliot. For cause. He's been escorted from the building, and he won't be returning." "But why? What did he do?" Cormac's jaw tightened. "He did a lot of things, but primarily he's been abusing his assistants, specifically you." I couldn't process the words. They didn't make sense. Elliot had been protecting me. Elliot had been running interference between me and Cormac's impossible standards. Elliot had been... "No," I heard myself say. "No, that's not." Elliot was helping me. He was the only reason I still had this job. He told me. "What did he tell you, Isla?" "That you..." I stopped, looked at Cormac's face, at the genuine concern there. "That you thought I was incompetent, that you were looking for reasons to fire me, that he was protecting me from you." Something painful crossed Cormac's expression. "And you believed him?" "Of course I believed him. He's your COO. He works with you every day. Why wouldn't I believe him?" "Because he was lying." Cormac pulled out a tablet, tapped a few buttons, and turned it toward me. "I need you to watch this. I know it's going to be difficult, but I need you to see what I saw." The screen showed security footage. My desk. The timestamp read 3 weeks ago. I watched myself arrive at 6:30 a.m., already looking exhausted. watched myself work through the morning, and then, at 2:47 p.m., Elliot appeared. The footage had no sound, but I didn't need it. I remembered this conversation. He'd called me into his office, told me the presentation I'd spent 2 weeks preparing wasn't good enough, that CB had seen it and was disappointed, that I needed to start over from scratch. I'd cried in the bathroom after, had worked until midnight redoing everything. On screen, I watched myself leave Elliot's office with tears streaming down my face, watched Elliot smile as I walked away. Cormac switched to another clip, then another. Weeks and months of footage, condensed into a highlight reel of my own destruction. Elliot criticizing me in meetings. Elliot handing me impossible deadlines. Elliot leaning over my desk, voice too quiet for the camera to pick up, while I shrank into my chair. "Stop," I whispered. "Please stop." Cormac turned off the tablet immediately. "I'm sorry. I know that was hard to watch, but you needed to see it." "I don't understand," he said. "He always said he was protecting me from you. He was using my name to control you, to make you afraid to come to me, to keep you isolated and dependent on him." Cormac's voice was gentle but firm. "Isla, I've never said any of the things Elliot claimed I said. I never thought you were incompetent. I never wanted to fire you. I never even knew he was giving you impossible deadlines and negative performance reviews. My mind was reeling. 3 years. 3 years of fear, of anxiety, of working myself to exhaustion. 3 years of believing I was one mistake away from losing everything. And it had all been a lie. The performance improvement plan," I said numbly. "He gave me a performance improvement plan this morning. 30 days to meet impossible metrics, or I'd be fired. There is no performance improvement plan. Or rather, there won't be any more. Elliot had no authority to put you on one without my approval, which he never sought and would never have received." Cormac leaned forward. "Isla, you're not being fired. You're not in trouble. You're an exceptional employee who's been systematically abused by someone who enjoyed having power over you." The words were too big, too impossible. I couldn't fit them into my understanding of reality. "But the reports," I insisted, "the ones with mistakes. He said you saw them, that you were disappointed. Show me one, any report you think had mistakes." "The Henderson analysis. The original one. He said the methodology section was unclear, that you wanted it revised." Cormac picked up his phone, typed something, then turned it toward me. An email from him to Elliot, time-stamped 3 days ago. "The Henderson analysis is excellent. Best methodology section I've seen in months. Tell Isla she did outstanding work." I stared at the email until the words blurred. "He told me you said it needed to be revised," I whispered. "I spent 4 hours redoing it this morning." "I know. I saw the revision you sent. It was identical to the original, just restructured. You wasted 4 hours of your life fixing something that was never broken." Cormac's voice hardened. "That's what Elliot did. He took your excellent work and convinced you it was inadequate. He created problems that didn't exist, so he could watch you scramble to fix them." My phone was buzzing continuously now, text after text from Elliot. "Isla, whatever CB is telling you is a lie. He's trying to cover his own ass. He's been looking for a scapegoat. Don't believe him. I'm the only one who's been honest with you. You're making a huge mistake." I looked at the messages, then at the tablet with the security footage, then at Cormac's face. He was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Concern, yes, but something else too, something that looked almost like guilt. "Why?" The question came out broken. "Why would he do that to me?" "Because he could. Because it gave him power. Because there are people in this world who enjoy breaking other people, and Elliot Vance is one of them." Cormac stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city, and because I was too blind to see it happening right under my nose. "It's not your fault." "Isn't it?" He turned to face me. "You work for my company. Elliot worked for me. I should have seen what he was doing. Should have noticed that his assistance never lasted more than 2 years. Should have questioned why you were terrified of me." His voice dropped. "Should have protected you." "You didn't know." "I didn't want to know. Elliot was good at his job. He made my life easier. so I didn't look too closely at how he treated his staff. He crossed back to the sitting area but didn't sit. That ends now. I've asked HR to conduct a full investigation. We're reaching out to his former assistants. And I want you to know, if you choose to file a formal complaint, I'll support you completely. Legal representation, whatever you need. A formal complaint. Against Elliot, the man who'd controlled every aspect of my work life for 3 years. The thought was terrifying. And liberating. I need to think about it, I said. Of course, take all the time you need. He finally sat down again. In the meantime, you report directly to me. No intermediary. If you have questions, concerns, if you need anything at all, you come straight to my office. Understood? Yes, understood. Good. He picked up a folder from the coffee table, handed it to me. This is your actual performance review. The real one, based on the work I've personally seen from you. I opened the folder with trembling hands. Exceptional analytical skills. Consistently produces high-quality work under tight deadlines. Demonstrates initiative and creative problem-solving. Recommended for promotion to senior analyst. Promotion. I read it 3 times, certain I was misreading. You want to promote me? I wanted to promote you 6 months ago. Elliot talked me out of it, said you weren't ready. Cormac's expression darkened. Now, I know why. If you'd been promoted, you would have moved to a different department. He'd have lost his favorite target. I closed the folder because my hands were shaking too badly to hold it steady. This is a lot to process, I said quietly. I know, and I'm sorry to dump it all on you at once. But you deserve to know the truth. He stood. Take the rest of the day off. Tomorrow too, if you need it. With pay, obviously. And Isla? I looked up at him. You're safe now. I know that's hard to believe after 3 years of being told otherwise. But it's true. Elliot is gone. He can't hurt you anymore. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But 3 years of conditioning didn't disappear in one conversation. Thank you, I managed, for seeing, for caring enough to look. Something shifted in his expression, softened. I should have looked sooner, he said quietly, but I'm looking now, and I promise you, Isla, I will never let anyone hurt you like that again. The words should have sounded possessive, controlling. Instead, they sounded like a vow. I left Cormac's office in a daze. Garrett was waiting in the reception area and he offered to escort me down. I nodded, not trusting my voice. In the elevator, he spoke quietly. You okay, Ms. Hayes? I don't know, I admitted. I don't know what I am. For what it's worth, Mr. Brennan looked like he wanted to put his fist through a wall after watching those security tapes. I've never seen him that angry. He paused. And I've never seen him that worried about an employee. The elevator doors opened on the 20th floor, my floor, where Elliot's office sat empty now. I walked to my desk like a ghost, sat down, stared at my computer screen without seeing it. My phone rang. Elliot. I stared at his name on the screen, remembering every time he'd called me into his office, every time he'd smiled while criticizing me, every time he told me he was protecting me from Cormac Brennan. Every lie. I declined the call. Immediately, a text appeared. You just made the biggest mistake of your career. I tried to help you, and this is how you repay me. CB is using you. He's going to destroy you, and when he does, don't come crying to me. I read the message. Then I did something I'd never had the courage to do before. I blocked his number. My desk phone rang. I picked it up automatically. Isla Hayes. Ms. Hayes, this is Monica from HR. Mr. Brennan asked me to reach out. I'd like to schedule a time to discuss your experience working with Mr. Vance. This is completely confidential, and you're under no obligation to participate. But if you're willing to speak with us, we'd appreciate your input. A formal investigation. Cormac had actually started a formal investigation. Yes, I heard myself say, yes, I'll talk to you. Wonderful. Are you available this afternoon? I know this is short notice, but I'm available now. Because if I waited, I might lose my nerve. Might convince myself it wasn't that bad. might fall back into the patterns Elliot had spent 3 years building. Perfect, I'll come to you. Conference room B in 10 minutes? I'll be there. I hung up and sat very still. 3 years. 3 years of fear and anxiety and self-doubt. And in one morning, it had all come crashing down. I should have felt relieved, vindicated, free. Instead, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down at the wreckage of everything I'd believed to be true. Elliot had been the monster. Cormac had been trying to save me, and I'd been too afraid to see the difference. My computer pinged. An email from Cormac. Isla, I meant what I said. You're safe now, and you're valued. Never doubt that. If you need anything, and I mean anything, my door is always open. Cormac. Not Mr. Brennan. Just Cormac. I read the email 3 times, then closed my laptop. Because Monica, from HR, was waiting. And it was time to tell the truth. All of it. Chapter 3, The Unraveling. Cormac. I watched Isla leave my office and wanted to put my fist through the floor-to-ceiling window. Not because of her. Because of what I'd just learned. Because of what I'd allowed to happen under my own roof for 3 goddamn years. I'd built this company from nothing. Fought my way up from a council estate in Dublin, where ambition was punished and dreaming was seen as delusion. I'd clawed my way to Boston, to success, to wealth that my younger self couldn't have imagined. And I'd told myself it meant something, that I was building something good, creating opportunities, changing lives, making a difference. But I'd missed the fact that one of my most trusted executives was systematically destroying people. 3 assistants before Isla, I'd pulled their files after firing Elliot, read through their exit interviews with new eyes. Jennifer Ward, the work environment became untenable. I felt constantly criticized and undermined. Marcus Riley, I don't feel valued here. I'm pursuing opportunities where my contributions will be recognized. Sarah Chen, personal reasons. But the HR notes mentioned she'd been in tears during the interview. 4 people. 4 talented, capable people who'd been broken by Elliot Vance's need for control. And I'd done nothing. Worse than nothing. I'd enabled it, promoted him, trusted him, given him the authority to hire and fire without oversight. My intercom buzzed. Mr. Brennan, your sister is online too. She says it's urgent. I picked up. Maeve, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong, you paranoid bastard. I'm calling to remind you about dinner tonight. 7 o'clock. Don't even think about canceling. My sister's voice was warm with affection and sharp with warning. You've canceled 3 times this month. I can't tonight. Something came up. Cormac Michael Brennan, if you cancel on me again. I fired my COO this morning for abusing his staff. I'm in the middle of damage control. Can we reschedule? Silence. Then, Jesus, are you okay? I'm fine. The people he hurt aren't, but they will be. Do you need anything? Want me to come by? I almost said no. Then I thought about Isla's face when she'd realized Elliot had been lying to her. The way she'd looked at those security tapes like she was watching her own destruction. Actually, yes. Come by around 6. Bring food, something that isn't coffee. Done. And Core, whatever you're beating yourself up over, stop. You can't fix the past. You can only do better going forward. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just never listen. She paused. This person Elliot hurt, are they going to be okay? I thought about Isla, about the fear in her eyes, about the way she'd flinched when I'd raised my voice slightly. I don't know, I admitted, but I'm going to make sure they have every resource they need to heal. Good. I'll see you at 6. She hung up, and I turned back to my computer. I had emails to answer, meetings to reschedule, a company to run. But all I could think about was Isla, sitting in HR right now, having to relive 3 years of abuse so we could build a case against Elliot. A case that would never undo the damage he'd done. My phone buzzed. A text from Patrick, my head of security. We've got a problem. Elliot Vance is in the building. I was out of my chair and heading for the door before I'd even finished reading the message. Isla. The HR conference room was smaller than I'd expected. Intimate. Just a table, 4 chairs, and Monica Chen, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes, and a digital recorder that sat between us like a silent witness. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with me, Ms. Hayes." Monica's voice was gentle, professional. "Before we begin, I want to make a few things clear. This conversation is confidential. Nothing you say will leave this room without your explicit permission. You're free to stop at any time, for any reason. And you're entitled to have someone present with you, a friend, a lawyer, anyone who makes you feel more comfortable." "I'm okay alone," I said. Then, quieter, "I've been alone through all of this. I can be alone through this, too." Something sad crossed Monica's face. "You shouldn't have been alone through any of it, and I'm sorry we didn't see what was happening sooner." The apology surprised me, made my throat tight. "Can you tell me, in your own words, what your experience working for Elliot Vance has been like?" Monica asked. I opened my mouth, closed it. Where did I even start? "I don't know where to begin," I admitted. "Start wherever feels right. There's no wrong answer here." I took a breath. Then another. "The first month was fine." I started. "Elliot was charming, professional. He had high standards, but that seemed normal for a company like this. I wanted to impress him, wanted to prove I belonged here." Monica nodded, made a note. "When did things change?" "Gradually." So gradually, I didn't notice at first. I twisted my hands in my lap. He started staying late, so I stayed late too. Started sending emails at midnight, so I started checking my phone at midnight. The work hours increased, but so did the criticism. What kind of criticism? Everything. My emails were too formal, then too casual. My reports were too detailed, then not detailed enough. I worked too slowly, then rushed and made mistakes. The words came faster now, 3 years of frustration pouring out. No matter what I did, it was wrong, and he'd always say the same thing that CB had noticed. That CB was disappointed. That CB expected better. "Did you ever speak to Mr. Brennan directly about these concerns?" "No," Elliot said not to. Said that CB hated being bothered with trivial matters, that going to him would make me look weak, incompetent. I laughed, but it came out bitter. I was so afraid of bothering Mr. Brennan that I worked 80-hour weeks trying to be good enough that Elliot wouldn't have to mention me. Monica's pen moved across her notepad. "Can you describe the performance improvement plan Elliot gave you this morning?" I pulled out the document, hands shaking. Monica read through it, her expression growing darker with each page. "These metrics are impossible," she said flatly. "Complete your workload in 8 hours when he's been assigning you 12 hours of work? Propose 3 efficiency improvements per week when he shoots down every suggestion? This isn't a performance improvement plan. This is designed to make you fail." Hearing someone else say it made it real, made it hurt. He told me I had 30 days or I'd be fired. That he'd been protecting me from CB, but his patience had limits. My voice cracked. I believed him. I've believed everything he's told me for 3 years. Did Elliot's behavior ever escalate beyond verbal criticism? Any physical contact? Explicit threats? Anything that made you feel unsafe? I thought about the way Elliot would lean over my desk, invading my space, the way he'd corner me in his office, blocking the door. Nothing I could point to as assault, but everything designed to make me feel small, trapped, powerless. Not physical, I said carefully, but he'd stand too close, corner me in rooms, make me feel like I couldn't leave until he said I could. And his threats were always veiled. Never. "I'll fire you. Always. CB is losing patience." Or, "I can't protect you forever." Did he ever make inappropriate comments about your appearance, your personal life, anything of a sexual nature? No, this wasn't about that. It was about control. About power. I met Monica's eyes. He wanted to break me. And he almost succeeded. Monica set down her pen and looked at me with something that might have been respect. "Ms. Hayes, You're not broken. You're sitting here, telling your story, helping us build a case. That takes courage. It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like I should have done this 3 years ago. You couldn't have. That's what abuse does. It makes you doubt your own perception of reality. It makes you believe you deserve the treatment you're receiving. She paused. But you didn't deserve any of it. I need you to understand that. I nodded, but I wasn't sure I believed her yet. One more question, and then we can take a break. Did you ever witness Elliot treating other employees this way? I thought back. His previous assistants all left quickly. I remember Jennifer. She was there my first week. She looked exhausted, defeated. And when she gave notice, Elliot made a comment about her not being cut out for the corporate world. We'll be reaching out to her and the others. Your testimony is incredibly valuable, but corroboration from multiple sources will make the case stronger. Monica stood. I'm going to get us some water. Take a few minutes. When I come back, I'd like to talk about the security footage Mr. Brennan showed you. She left, and I sat alone in the small conference room. My phone was face down on the table. I hadn't looked at it since blocking Elliot's number, but I could feel it there, a small rectangle of potential disaster. What if he was right? What if Cormac was using me, manipulating me the way Elliot claimed? What if this was all some elaborate corporate power play, and I was just a pawn? But then I remembered the email Cormac had sent Elliot about the Henderson analysis, the one praising my work, the one Elliot had never shown me. I remembered the way Cormac had looked at me in the elevator Friday night, not with anger or disgust, but with concern. I remembered his voice this morning. You're safe now. The door opened, but it wasn't Monica. It was Elliot. He looked different. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His hair, usually styled perfectly, was disheveled. But it was his eyes that made my blood run cold. They were wild, furious, barely controlled. Isla. He closed the door behind him. We need to talk. I stood so fast my chair scraped across the floor. You're not supposed to be here. Security escorted you out. Security works for me too. I know this building better than they do. He took a step forward. I took a step back. I'm trying to help you. CB is manipulating you, and you're falling for it. Get out. Listen to me. Another step. He fired me to cover his own ass. All those negative reviews, they came from him, not me. I was trying to soften them, trying to protect you, and now he's rewritten history to make himself look like the hero. That's not true. I saw the emails. I saw. Emails can be faked. Security footage can be edited. He was close now. Too close. Think about it, Isla. Why would I spend 3 years managing you if I wanted to hurt you? Why wouldn't I just fire you and be done with it? Because you enjoyed it, I realized with sudden, horrible clarity. You enjoyed watching me struggle, watching me break myself trying to meet impossible standards, watching me shrink and apologize and grovel. Because you're a sadist, I said quietly. His expression shifted. The charm dropped away completely, replaced by something ugly. You ungrateful little bitch. His voice was soft, venomous. I gave you a chance, took you from nothing and gave you a career, and this is how you repay me? By believing his lies? They weren't lies. The emails were real. The footage was real. You tortured me for 3 years, and you enjoyed every second of it. Tortured? He laughed. I pushed you to be better, to be excellent, and you were too weak to handle it. No. You broke me down so you could feel powerful, so you could control someone. My voice was shaking, but I kept going. And you used Cormac's name to do it because you knew I'd be too afraid to verify your claims. Careful, Isla. He took another step forward, and I was backed against the wall now. You're burning bridges. CB will get bored of you eventually, and when he does, you'll need someone on your side. Someone who understands what you're really capable of. The door slammed open. Cormac stood in the doorway, and the expression on his face was pure murder. Get away from her. His voice was deadly quiet. Now. Elliot turned, and for a second I saw fear flash across his face. Then he recovered, slipping back into that smooth, confident persona. Cormac. I was just trying to talk to Isla, clear up some misunderstandings. You were told to leave the building. You came back anyway. You cornered a woman in a closed room after being fired for abusing her. Cormac stepped into the room, and despite being roughly the same height as Elliot, he seemed to fill the space. Get out. Before I have you arrested for trespassing. This is ridiculous. I have a right to defend myself. You have the right to leave before security arrives and removes you forcibly. That's it. Cormac's eyes were like steel. And Elliot? If you ever come near Isla again, if you contact her, if you so much as look in her direction, I will destroy you. Not your career. You, personally. Do you understand me? I'd never heard Cormac sound like that. Cold, brutal, absolutely certain. Elliot's jaw tightened. He looked at me one last time, and I saw hatred there. Pure, undiluted hatred. This isn't over, he said quietly. Yes, Cormac replied. It is. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway, Garrett and another man I didn't recognize. They looked ready for a fight. Mr. Vance needs to leave the premises, Cormac said without taking his eyes off Elliot. Immediately. If he resists, call the police. Elliot straightened his jacket, made a show of composing himself. Then he walked to the door, pausing beside Cormac. You're making a mistake, he said. The only mistake I made was trusting you. Cormac's voice was flat. Now get out of my building. Elliot left, flanked by security. I could hear his voice echoing down the hallway, still protesting. Still trying to control the narrative. Then Cormac was in front of me, and his expression had completely transformed. The cold fury was gone, replaced by concern so intense it made my chest ache. Are you all right? Did he hurt you? His hands hovered near my shoulders, like he wanted to touch me but wasn't sure if he should. Isla, talk to me. I'm fine. He wanted to convince me you were lying. The words came out shaky. He said you faked the emails, edited the footage. Of course he did. That's what abusers do. They make you doubt your own reality. Cormac's hands finally settled on my shoulders, gentle but grounding. Look at me. I did. I didn't fake anything. The emails are real. The footage is real. Elliot Vance is a predator who spent 3 years psychologically torturing you because it made him feel powerful. None of that is your fault. All of it is his choice. Do you understand? I nodded, but tears were streaming down my face now. 3 years of suppressed emotion finally breaking through. I believed him. I choked out. For 3 years I believed everything he told me. I thought you hated me. I thought I was failing. I thought, hey, stop. Cormac pulled me into his chest, and I went, too broken to resist. His arms wrapped around me, solid and warm, and I felt something crack open inside me. You survived. That's what matters. You survived 3 years of systematic abuse, and you're still standing. That's not weakness, Isla, that's strength. I sobbed into his expensive shirt, and he held me through it, didn't try to shush me, didn't tell me to calm down, just held me and let me fall apart. When the tears finally slowed, I pulled back, mortified. I'm sorry, your shirt. I don't care about the shirt. He tilted my chin up gently. I care about you. Are you okay to continue with Monica, or do you need to stop for today? I want to finish. I need to finish. All right, but I'm stationing security outside this room. Nobody gets in without your permission. His thumb brushed away a tear I'd missed. And Isla, you were incredibly brave just now, standing up to him, telling him the truth. I know that couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, but it felt good. For the first time in 3 years, I told him what I really thought. I managed a watery smile. It felt really good. Something shifted in Cormac's expression. Pride, maybe. Or respect. Good, he said softly. Get used to that feeling. You're going to be doing a lot more of it. Cormac. I left Isla with Monica and Garrett standing guard outside the conference room, then went directly to Patrick's office. My head of security looked up when I walked in, took one look at my face and stood. How the hell did Elliot get back in the building? Service entrance. Tailgated behind a delivery truck. We've already updated the protocols. Won't happen again. Patrick pulled up security footage on his computer. He went straight to the HR floor. He knew exactly where to find her. I watched the footage, watched Elliot corner Isla in that conference room, watched her back away from him. I want charges filed, I said. Trespassing at minimum, harassment if we can make it stick. Already on it. I've got the footage ready for BPD. Patrick paused. Boss, there's something else you should know. Elliot's been making calls. To board members, to clients, to anyone who'll listen. He's claiming wrongful termination, says you fired him because he discovered financial irregularities. Of course he was. Elliot wouldn't go quietly. Let him make his claims. We have documentation, performance reviews from his assistants, testimony, security footage. I met Patrick's eyes. And if he keeps pushing, I'll bury him. Legally, financially, professionally. Whatever it takes. You really care about her, don't you, Isla? The question caught me off guard. She's my employee. I'm responsible for her well-being. Bullshit. Patrick grinned. I've worked for you for 6 years, Cormac. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you looked at her in that conference room. Like you wanted to burn the world down to keep her safe. Don't, I warned. Don't what? Don't point out that you've been watching her for 2 years? That you know her coffee order, her work schedule, which reports she writes versus the ones Elliot claimed credit for? Patrick crossed his arms. Boss, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, maybe this is about more than just doing the right thing for an employee. She's vulnerable, she's been abused. The last thing she needs is her boss developing feelings for her. Maybe. Or maybe she needs someone who actually sees her, who values her, who makes her feel safe instead of terrified. He shrugged. Just something to think about. I left before he could say anything else that hit too close to home. Because he was right. I'd been watching Isla Hayes for 2 years, noticing things I had no business noticing. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating. The small smile she got when she solved a complex problem. The grace with which she moved through the office, trying to be invisible. I'd told myself it was professional interest, that I recognized talent when I saw it. But somewhere along the way, it had become something else. Something dangerous. Something I couldn't afford to act on. Because Isla Hayes had spent 3 years being controlled, manipulated, and abused by someone in a position of power over her. The last thing she needed was another man with power trying to claim her. Even if that man was me. Chapter 4. The Shift. Isla. I finished with Monica at 4 in the afternoon, emotionally wrung out, but strangely lighter. 3 hours of testimony. 3 hours of documenting every manipulation, every impossible deadline, every time Elliot had made me feel worthless. Monica had recorded it all with patient professionalism, occasionally pausing to let me compose myself when the memories became too sharp. You did incredibly well, she said as she walked me to the door. Garrett was still stationed outside, standing like a sentinel. This testimony, combined with what we're getting from the other assistants, builds a strong case. Not just for termination, but potentially for legal action. Legal action? The thought made my stomach clench. You mean like a lawsuit? That's your decision, but yes, you'd have grounds. Hostile work environment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, possibly more. She touched my arm gently. You don't have to decide now. Take time. Process. We'll support whatever choice you make. I nodded, but I couldn't think about lawsuits right now. Could barely think at all. Go home, Monica said kindly. Take tomorrow off, too. Mr. Brennan's already approved it. Of course he had. I collected my things from my desk. Laptop, personal mug, the small succulent plant I'd somehow kept alive for 3 years, and headed for the elevator. The office felt different now, less suffocating. Or maybe I was different. Maybe for the first time in 3 years I could breathe. The elevator doors opened, and Cormac stepped out. We nearly collided. I stumbled back, and his hand shot out to steady me, catching my elbow with the same careful touch he'd used in the conference room. Isla, I was just coming to find you. His eyes searched my face. How are you holding up? I don't know. exhausted, relieved, angry. I laughed, but it came out shaky. All of the above? That's understandable. He still hadn't released my elbow. Are you driving home? Because I can have someone take you. You've been through hell today. I'm okay to drive. I just need to get out of here for a while. He nodded, but something in his expression suggested he didn't quite believe me. Listen, I know this is probably the last thing you want right now, but my sister's bringing dinner to my place tonight. She's heard about the Elliot situation. Not the details, just that I fired my COO, and she's in full protective mode. I blinked. Your sister? Maeve. She's a force of nature. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. She's also incredibly nosy, and will absolutely interrogate me about what happened. I thought, if you wanted, you could join us. Get out of your own head for a few hours. No pressure. Just food and conversation with someone who isn't wrapped up in all of this. The invitation was so unexpected that I didn't know how to respond. Cormac Brennan was inviting me to dinner, to meet his sister, like we were friends, instead of boss and traumatized employee. I don't want to intrude on your family time. You wouldn't be intruding. Maeve would love to meet you. She's been on my case for months to develop a social life outside of work. His expression turned more serious. But if you'd rather be alone, I understand. Just know the offer's there. I should have said no, should have gone home, taken a bath, processed everything that had happened today. But the thought of going back to my empty apartment, sitting alone with my thoughts and Elliot's blocked messages, made my chest tight. Okay, I heard myself say, what time? Surprise flickered across Cormac's face. 7. I'll text you the address. And Isla? Casual dress. Maeve will give me hell if she thinks I made you dress up. Cormac's apartment was in the Back Bay, a historic brownstone that had been converted into luxury units. I stood outside the building at 6:58, second-guessing everything. What was I doing here? This was my boss's home, his personal space. We'd shared one emotional conversation, and now I was having dinner with his family. But before I could talk myself into leaving, the door opened. A woman stood there, mid-30s, with the same dark hair and gray eyes as Cormac, but with a warmth that radiated from her like heat. You must be Isla. She pulled me into a hug before I could respond. I'm Maeve. Come in, come in. Cor's been pacing like a caged animal waiting for you. I have not been pacing, Cormac's voice called from inside. He absolutely has been, Maeve whispered conspiratorially. She released me and ushered me through a narrow hallway into a stunning, open-concept living space. The apartment was nothing like I'd expected. I'd imagined something cold and modern, all glass and steel like his office. Instead, it was warm, lived in. Books lined built-in shelves. A worn leather couch faced a fireplace that actually looked used, and photographs covered one entire wall. Cormac stood in the kitchen area, chopping vegetables with the focused precision he brought to everything. He'd changed into jeans and a dark Henley, sleeves pushed up to his elbows. He looked normal, human, like someone you'd run into at a coffee shop instead of a CEO worth hundreds of millions. Ignore my brother's terrible hosting skills, Maeve said, guiding me to a bar stool at the kitchen island. Wine? Beer? Water? Whiskey? Wine would be great, thank you. Maeve poured 2 generous glasses while Cormac continued cooking. The domesticity of it all was surreal. So, Maeve settled onto the stool next to mine. Cor tells me you're a senior analyst, or you will be once the promotion goes through. Maeve, Cormac warned. What? I'm making conversation. She grinned at me. Don't let him intimidate you. He's a teddy bear, under all that brooding CEO nonsense. I am not a teddy bear. You cried at the Pixar movie last month. That ending was emotionally manipulative. I laughed before I could stop myself, and both siblings turned to look at me. Maeve's expression was delighted. Cormac's was softer, pleased. See? Maeve nudged me. He's human after all. I was starting to wonder. The evening unfolded with easy warmth. Maeve asked about my background, my education, carefully avoiding anything work-related. Cormac cooked, some kind of pasta dish that smelled incredible, while his sister told stories about their childhood in Dublin. He was such a serious kid, Maeve was saying. Always reading, always planning. Our mam used to joke that he'd been born middle-aged. Someone had to be responsible, Cormac said mildly, setting plates in front of us, especially after Da died. Something shifted in the room. Maeve's expression sobered. Cor was 16 when our father had a heart attack, she explained to me. Dropped dead in the street on his way home from work. Left behind 6 kids and more debt than assets. I'm so sorry, I said quietly. It was a long time ago. Cormac sat across from us, but his eyes were distant. But it taught me some things. About responsibility. About taking care of the people who depend on you. Is that why you started the company? I asked. Part of it. I wanted to build something that couldn't be taken away. Something that would provide stability for people who needed it. He met my eyes. I wanted to create the kind of place my father would have been proud to work. Fair wages, good benefits, opportunities for advancement based on merit. And you did, Maeve said firmly. You built something incredible, Cor. Don't let one bad apple make you forget that. One bad apple who I promoted. Who I gave authority to. Who I trusted to manage people when I was too focused on growth to pay attention to what was actually happening. His jaw tightened. That's on me. No, I said, surprising myself. That's on him. You didn't make Elliot abuse people. He chose that. You're just the one who stopped it. Cormac looked at me for a long moment, something unreadable in his expression. She's right, Maeve said. And also, I like her. Can we keep her? Maeve. What? I'm just saying, she's got more sense than half your executive team combined. She topped off my wine glass. So, Isla, what do you do for fun when you're not analyzing data and putting up with my brother's workaholic tendencies? The question stumped me. What did I do for fun? I couldn't remember the last time I'd done something purely for enjoyment. I used to paint, I said slowly, before work got so busy, watercolors mostly. Nothing professional, just something I enjoyed. Used to? Maeve leaned forward. Why'd you stop? No time, no energy, I shrugged. It felt frivolous when I was barely keeping up with everything else. Cormac's expression darkened, and I realized what I'd just admitted, that Elliot had consumed so much of my life that I'd stopped doing the things I loved. Well, you have time now, Maeve declared. In fact, I'm hosting a painting class next week at my studio. Absolute beginners welcome. You should come. You have a studio? I'm an art teacher. Elementary school during the day. Adult classes in the evenings. It's not as glamorous as running a tech empire. She shot a look at Cormac. But it's fulfilling. Plus, I get summers off. That sounds wonderful, I said honestly. Great. I'll text you the details. Don't let my brother monopolize all your time with spreadsheets and profit margins. We moved to the living room after dinner, Maeve claiming the armchair while I perched on one end of the couch. Cormac sat on the other end, a careful distance between us. So, Maeve said, tucking her feet under her, I have to ask, what made you want to work for this workaholic? Maeve, Christ. I'm genuinely curious. You clearly have options. You're brilliant, talented, and you haven't run screaming from Cor's intensity, which suggests either remarkable patience or masochism. Probably both, I said, and Maeve laughed. Oh, I definitely like you. The conversation flowed naturally. Maeve told stories about teaching, the funny, heartbreaking, absurd moments that came with working with kids. Cormac occasionally interjected with dry observations that made his sister throw pillows at him. It was normal. So beautifully, perfectly normal that I felt something loosen in my chest. Around 10, Maeve's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and sighed. That's my cue. Early morning tomorrow. She stood, grabbed her coat. Isla, it was lovely meeting you. Don't be a stranger. And Cor, she pointed at her brother, take care of her. Or answer to me. I'm terrified, Cormac said dryly. You should be. She hugged me again. Painting class. Next Thursday, 7 p.m. I'll send you the address." Then she was gone, leaving me alone with Cormac in his warm, book-filled apartment. The silence stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Cormac stood, began collecting wine glasses. "Your sister's wonderful," I said. "She's a menace." "But yes, she's wonderful." He paused. "Thank you for coming tonight. I know it was probably strange, given everything that happened today. It was exactly what I needed." I stood, helped him carry plates to the kitchen. "I've spent 3 years afraid to have a life outside of work. Afraid that if I wasn't available 24/7, something terrible would happen. Tonight reminded me that there's more than just work. There should always be more than just work." He set the dishes in the sink, turned to face me. We were close now, just a few feet apart in the small kitchen. "Isla, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "What do you want?" His eyes were intense, searching. "Not what Elliot told you to want. Not what you think you should want. What do you actually want for yourself?" No one had asked me that in so long that I didn't know how to answer. "I want to stop being afraid," I said finally. "I want to wake up without anxiety already crushing my chest. I want to do my job because I'm good at it, not because I'm terrified of what happens if I'm not perfect." I paused. "I want to feel like myself again, whoever that is." "You'll get there." His voice was gentle. "It takes time to recover from what you've been through. But you're stronger than you think, Isla. You survived 3 years of systematic abuse and came out the other side, still capable of kindness, still willing to trust. That's extraordinary." "I don't feel extraordinary. I feel broken." "You're not broken. You're healing. There's a difference." He reached out, hesitated, then let his hand fall. "I know this is complicated. I'm your boss, and there's a massive power imbalance, and the last thing I want is to make you uncomfortable. But I need you to know you're safe with me. Always. No expectations, no hidden agendas, just safety." The words settled over me like a blanket. Safety. When was the last time I'd felt safe? "Thank you," I whispered, "for today, for dinner, for seeing what was happening and actually doing something about it. You didn't have to care." "Yes, I did." His expression was fierce. "You're my responsibility. More than that." He stopped himself. "You matter, Isla. You've always mattered." The weight of those words hung between us. I should have left then. Should have thanked him for dinner and gone home before this became more complicated than it already was. But I didn't want to leave. Didn't want to go back to my empty apartment and my racing thoughts. "Can I ask you something now?" I said. "Anything." "Why did you really invite me tonight? It wasn't just about Maeve interrogating you." He was quiet for a moment, considering. "Because you shouldn't be alone right now," he said finally. "Because I've watched you be isolated and afraid for too long, and I wanted to show you what it could be like. Connection without fear. Conversation without walking on eggshells." He met my eyes. "Because I wanted you to see that not everyone with power over you wants to use it against you." The honesty in his voice made my chest ache. "It worked," I said softly. "I felt safe tonight. For the first time in 3 years, I felt completely safe." Something shifted in his expression, softened. "Good," he said. "That's how you should always feel." We stood there in his small kitchen, the city lights glowing through the windows, and I felt the ground shifting beneath me. This wasn't just about recovering from Elliot's abuse anymore. This was about the way Cormac looked at me. The way his presence made me feel protected instead of threatened. The way he'd spent 2 years watching me, noticing me, caring in ways I'd been too afraid to see. This was dangerous territory. But maybe, just maybe, it was worth the risk. Cormac. I watched Isla leave at 11, made sure she got safely to her car, then went back inside and poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey. I was in trouble. Deep, complicated, dangerous trouble. Because somewhere between firing Elliot and watching Isla laugh at Maeve's stories, I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I cared about her, more than I should, more than was appropriate for a boss to care about an employee. I wanted to protect her, to make her smile, to show her everything she'd been missing while Elliot had been slowly destroying her. My phone rang. Patrick. "We've got a problem," he said without preamble. Elliot filed a wrongful termination suit, claiming discrimination, retaliation, and about 6 other things his lawyers threw at the wall. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. "What's the timeline?" "We have 30 days to respond. Legal's already on it, but they wanted you to know." He paused. "There's more. He's subpoenaing Isla's testimony. Claims she's part of a conspiracy to remove him from the company. He's going after her." "Looks like it. Boss, this could get ugly." "Let it get ugly. We have documentation, testimony from multiple assistants, security footage. He doesn't have a case. Maybe not legally, but in the court of public opinion, if he spins this right, makes himself look like the victim of a vindictive CEO and a scheming employee. Then we fight back harder." I set down the whiskey. "Get our PR team involved. I want a statement prepared. And Patrick? Make sure Isla has protection. If Elliot's desperate enough to sue, he's desperate enough to do something stupid. Already arranged. We'll have someone on her building, discreet surveillance." "Good. Keep me updated." I hung up and stared out at the Boston skyline. Elliot wasn't going away quietly. He was going to fight, and he was going to drag Isla through hell to do it, which meant I needed to make sure she was ready, and that I kept my growing feelings for her locked down tight, because the last thing she needed was her boss developing an obsession, even if that's exactly what was happening. Chapter 5. The Testimony. Isla. The lawsuit hit the news 3 days later. I was in my apartment, trying to paint for the first time in years. Maeve had dropped off supplies with a note that said no excuses. Create something, when my phone started ringing. First my mother, then my college roommate, then numbers I didn't recognize. I made the mistake of checking social media. Tech executive sues Brennan Corp., claims retaliation. The article had Elliot's photo, professional, charming, the picture of an upstanding businessman. Below it, a statement from his lawyer. Mr. Vance dedicated 8 years to Brennan Corp., consistently delivering exceptional results. His termination was politically motivated, orchestrated by CEO Cormac Brennan and a junior employee with whom Mr. Brennan has an inappropriate relationship. We look forward to presenting the facts in court. An inappropriate relationship. With me. They were painting me as some kind of temptress who'd seduced the CEO to get rid of Elliot. My phone rang again. "Cormac." I answered with shaking hands. "Did you see?" "I saw. Don't read the comments. Don't engage with anyone on social media. Our legal team is already preparing a response." His voice was tight with controlled fury. "Are you okay?" "No." "They're saying, Cormac, they're making it sound like I know what they're saying. It's bullshit. Strategic bullshit designed to make you look unreliable when you testify." I heard him take a breath. "Isla, listen to me. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Elliot's going scorched earth. But we have truth on our side, and we have evidence. He's going to lose. What if people believe him? Some people will. Some people always believe the person with the better PR." His voice softened. "But the people who matter, the people who actually know you, they'll know the truth." "I know the truth." There was something in his tone that made my chest tight. Something that sounded almost like, no, I was projecting, seeing things I wanted to see, because I was vulnerable and scared, and he'd been kind to me. "There's going to be a press conference tomorrow," Cormac continued. "Our legal team, HR, myself, we're releasing a statement with redacted portions of the investigation findings. It won't include your name, but it will make Elliot's pattern of behavior clear. Will it be enough? It's a start, but Isla, you need to prepare yourself. His lawyers are going to come after you hard. They're going to try to make you look unstable, vindictive, opportunistic." He paused. "I won't let them destroy you, but they're going to try." I thought about Elliot's face in that conference room, the hatred in his eyes, the venom in his voice when he'd called me an ungrateful bitch. I can handle it, I said, trying to convince myself as much as him. I know you can, but you don't have to handle it alone. There was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. Hold on, I told Cormac, checking the peephole. A woman stood there, professional looking, holding a briefcase. Behind her, I could see someone else, a man with a camera. Cormac, there are reporters outside my apartment. Fuck, I heard movement on his end. Don't open the door. Don't say anything. I'm sending security to you right now. Patrick's team will clear them out and set up protection at your building. This is insane. I'm not important enough for this. You are to Elliot. You're his way to hurt me, and he knows it. His voice went hard. Pack a bag. Enough for a few days. You're not staying there tonight. Where am I supposed to go? Silence. Then, my place, guest room. It's secure, and no one will look for you there. Cormac, I can't. That'll just fuel the rumors about us. I don't give a damn about rumors. I care about keeping you safe. The fierceness in his voice made me freeze. Please, Isla, let me do this. The knock came again, harder this time. A voice called through the door. Ms. Hayes? Just a few questions about your relationship with Cormac Brennan. Okay, I said. Okay, I'll pack a bag. Patrick arrived 20 minutes later with 2 other security guards. They cleared the reporters from my hallway with professional efficiency while I threw clothes into a duffel bag, hands shaking. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. But the camera flashes through my window said otherwise. Patrick drove me to Cormac's building through a route designed to lose anyone following us. We entered through an underground garage, took a service elevator up. Cormac was waiting when the elevator doors opened. He looked like he'd been pacing, his hair disheveled, shirt sleeves rolled up, tie discarded. When he saw me, relief flooded his expression. Thank you, Patrick, he said, taking my bag. Set up the overnight watch at her building. I want to know if anyone so much as looks at her door. On it, boss, Patrick nodded to me. You're safe here, Miss Hayes. We've got eyes on every entrance. Then he was gone, and I was alone with Cormac in his apartment. I'm sorry, he said immediately. I know this is the last place you probably want to be, given the rumors, but it's okay. I wrapped my arms around myself. You were right. I wasn't safe there. He set my bag down, turned to face me fully. In the soft lighting of his apartment, he looked tired, worried, human. The guest room is this way. He led me down a hallway I hadn't seen during the dinner with Maeve. Private bathroom, fresh linens. I'll be in my room if you need anything. Or in the office. I have work to catch up on. The guest room was beautiful, minimalist, but warm, with a queen bed covered in soft gray linens and windows overlooking the city. Thank you, I said, for this, for everything. Don't thank me. This is my fault. I should have anticipated Elliot would go nuclear. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I should have protected you better. You fired him. You started an investigation. You gave me a safe place to stay. I stepped closer. You've done everything right, Cormac. This isn't on you. Isn't it? I hired him, promoted him, gave him the authority to hurt you. His jaw tightened. And now he's using you to get to me, which is exactly what I was trying to prevent. He's using both of us. That's what abusers do. They try to maintain control however they can. I reached out, hesitated, then let my hand fall. But he doesn't control us anymore. We control ourselves. Cormac looked at me for a long moment, something unreadable in his expression. When did you get so wise? He asked softly. About 3 days ago, when I realized I'd spent 3 years believing lies. I managed a small smile. I'm a quick learner. That you are. He moved toward the door, then paused. Isla, there's something I need to tell you about the rumors. My stomach dropped. What about them? They're going to get worse. Elliot's team is good. They've already planted stories with friendly media outlets. There will be photos of us together, taken out of context, speculation about our relationship, accusations of favoritism, nepotism. Worse. How much worse? They're going to say I fired Elliot to cover up an affair with you. that the abuse allegations are fabricated to justify wrongful termination, that you're a gold digger who seduced your way into my bed and my company. His voice was carefully controlled, but I could hear the anger underneath. None of it's true, but it's going to be everywhere. I sat down heavily on the bed. This is a nightmare. I know, and I'm sorry. If I'd known he'd go this far. He stopped. I can still fix this. Put out a statement clarifying that our relationship is purely professional. Distance myself publicly. It might help. No. The word came out stronger than I intended. No. That's exactly what he wants. He wants to isolate me, make me look like a liar with no credibility. If you distance yourself, it plays right into that narrative. So what do? We tell the truth. We let the evidence speak. And we don't give him the satisfaction of seeing us run. I looked up at Cormac. Can you handle people thinking you're sleeping with your employee? Something flickered in his eyes. I can handle anything except you getting hurt. That's the line for me. The intensity in his voice made my breath catch. I'm already hurt, I said quietly, but I'm still standing, and I'm not running. No, he agreed, a hint of pride in his voice. You're not. The press conference happened the next morning. I watched from Cormac's apartment, curled up on his couch with coffee I couldn't drink and a stomach that wouldn't stop churning. Cormac stood at a podium, flanked by his legal team and Monica from HR. He looked every inch the powerful CEO, composed, controlled, absolutely certain. Good morning. I'm going to make a brief statement, and then we'll take limited questions. He looked directly into the camera, and I felt the full force of his presence, even through a screen. Yesterday, Elliot Vance filed a wrongful termination lawsuit against Brennan Corp. His claims are baseless, and we will vigorously defend against them in court. A reporter shouted a question. Cormac held up a hand. Let me finish. Mr. Vance was terminated for cause after an internal investigation revealed a pattern of workplace harassment spanning multiple years. We have extensive documentation, testimony from multiple witnesses, and video evidence supporting these findings. He paused. Mr. Vance's lawsuit includes salacious allegations about my personal life and the personal life of one of our employees. These allegations are categorically false and appear designed to distract from his own misconduct. Mr. Brennan, another reporter, can you confirm or deny a romantic relationship with Isla Hayes? I will not dignify that question with a response. Ms. Hayes is a valued employee who showed tremendous courage in coming forward about workplace abuse. She deserves privacy and respect, neither of which Mr. Vance's legal team seems interested in providing. Is she staying at your apartment? Cormac's expression went cold. Ms. Hayes's living arrangements are none of your concern. What is your concern? What should be everyone's concern is that a senior executive at a major corporation allegedly spent years psychologically tormenting his assistants. That's the story here, not unfounded speculation about people's private lives. He took a few more questions, deflecting the personal ones and hammering home the evidence of Elliot's abuse. By the time it ended, I was shaking. My phone buzzed, a text from Maeve. My brother is scary when he's protective. Are you okay? I smiled despite everything. Getting there. Thanks for checking. Come to painting class tonight. Might help to do something normal. I'm staying at Cormac's. Reporters at my apartment. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Okay, first, smart move, stay safe. Second, I'm not touching the staying at my brother's place thing because I value my life. Third, painting class, 7 p.m. I'll send a car. No arguments. I laughed. The Brennan siblings were equally stubborn, apparently. Fine, I'll be there. Cormac came home around noon, looking exhausted. How bad was it after the cameras turned off? I asked from my position on the couch where I'd been refreshing news sites for 3 hours. About what I expected. Lots of invasive questions, lots of speculation. He loosened his tie, collapsed into the armchair. Legal thinks Elliot's case will fall apart in discovery. He can't produce evidence of discrimination or retaliation because it doesn't exist. But the trial won't be for months. Until then, we weather the storm. I'm sorry you're caught up in this. I'm sorry you are. He looked at me, really looked at me. How are you holding up? Honestly. Honestly, I'm terrified. I feel exposed. Every time I look at my phone, there's another article dissecting my life, my choices, my relationship with you. I pulled my knees to my chest. But I'm also angry. Really, really angry. And that's new. Anger is good. Anger means you're not broken. Your sister invited me to painting class tonight. Sent a very pushy text about how I'm not allowed to say no. That got a real smile out of him. Maeve's good at that. Are you going? I think so. If I stay here, I'll just keep reading awful things about myself online. I paused. Is it okay if I stay here a few more days? Just until things calm down at my apartment? Isla, you can stay as long as you need. Weeks, months, whatever it takes. His voice was firm. This is a safe place. No expectations, no pressure, just safety. Thank you. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Cormac spoke. Can I tell you something about why I'm so angry about this? Of course. When I was 17, my ma'am remarried, a man named Thomas. His voice went flat, distant. He was charming, successful, seemed perfect. But behind closed doors, he was cruel. Especially to Maeve. He'd criticize everything she did, tell her she was worthless, that no one would ever love her. Cormac. It took me 2 years to see it. 2 years of thinking Maeve was just going through a phase, becoming withdrawn. By the time I realized what was happening, she'd already tried to hurt herself. Twice. His hands were fisted on his knees. I got her out. Got all of us out. But I never forgave myself for not seeing it sooner. That's why you recognized what Elliot was doing to me. I saw the same signs. The fear, the hypervigilance, the way you made yourself small. He met my eyes. And I swore I wouldn't miss it again, wouldn't let someone hurt people under my watch because I was too focused on other things to pay attention. Is Maeve okay now? She's thriving. Therapy helped. Distance from Thomas helped. But she still has scars. His expression softened. Like you will. But scars mean you survived. They're proof of strength, not weakness. I stood, crossed to where he sat, and did something I'd never imagined doing a week ago. I hugged him. He stiffened for half a second, then his arms came around me, holding me with a careful gentleness that made my throat tight. Thank you, I whispered into his shoulder, for seeing me, for caring, for being nothing like what I was taught to expect. His arms tightened. You're so welcome. We stayed like that for a long moment, and I felt something shift between us, something that had been building since the elevator, since the conference room, since the moment I'd realized I'd been afraid of the wrong man. When I pulled back, Cormac's eyes were dark, intense. Isla, he started. My phone rang, shattering the moment. Monica from HR. I answered. Hello? Isla, I'm sorry to bother you, but Elliot's legal team has requested an interview with you. They're entitled to it as part of Discovery, but you have the right to have counsel present. I wanted to coordinate with you before responding. I looked at Cormac. He was watching me, concern etched in every line of his face. When? I asked. They suggested next week, but we can push back, ask for more time to prepare. I thought about Elliot's face, about the lies he was telling, about the 3 years he'd stolen from me. No, I said firmly. Next week is fine. I want to get this over with. And Monica? I don't need more time to prepare. I know exactly what I'm going to say. Are you sure? These interviews can be intense. I'm sure. Elliot wants to make me look weak? Unreliable? I'm going to show him exactly how strong I am. I could hear the smile in Monica's voice. All right, I'll set it up. And Isla, you're going to do great. I hung up and found Cormac staring at me with something that looked like awe. What? I asked. A week ago, you could barely look me in the eye. Now you're volunteering to face down Elliot's attacked dog lawyers. He shook his head. You're remarkable, you know that? I'm just done being afraid. Good, he said softly, because you have nothing to be afraid of anymore. And looking at him, At the fierce protectiveness in his eyes, the strength he was offering me, I almost believed it. Almost. Chapter 6. The Breaking Point. Isla. The deposition was scheduled for Tuesday morning at 9. I spent the weekend at Cormac's apartment, preparing with Monica and the legal team. They drilled me on questions Elliot's lawyers might ask, taught me how to stay calm under pressure, warned me about tactics designed to make me emotional or defensive. "They're going to try to rattle you," Monica said on Sunday afternoon. "They'll imply you're lying, that you're vindictive, that you seduced Mr. Brennan to advance your career. The goal is to make you lose composure on camera." On camera? Depositions are recorded. If you break down, cry, get angry, they'll use that footage to paint you as unstable. She squeezed my hand. "But you're stronger than they think. Just tell the truth, stay calm, and don't let them bait you." Easier said than done. Maeve's painting class had helped. 2 hours of losing myself in watercolors, surrounded by strangers who had no idea who I was or what I was going through. Maeve had kept the conversation light, the music loud, and hadn't asked a single question about the lawsuit. Afterward, she'd pulled me aside. "My brother cares about you," she'd said quietly, "more than he's willing to admit, probably to himself. I've never seen him like this with anyone." It's not like that. He's just being protective because of what happened." "Is that what you think?" Maeve had studied me with those sharp gray eyes, so like Cormac's. "Because from where I'm standing, he looks at you the way our duh used to look at our mam, like you're the most important thing in the room." I hadn't known what to say to that. Didn't know what to say now, sitting in Cormac's guest room at 6 in the morning, too anxious to sleep. A soft knock at the door. "Come in," I called. Cormac entered, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. He was already dressed for the day. Charcoal suit, white shirt, no tie yet. His hair was damp from the shower. "Figured you'd be awake," he said, handing me one of the mugs. "Couldn't sleep either." Too many scenarios running through my head. I took a grateful sip. Perfect. Cream, no sugar. He'd noticed how I took my coffee. What if I say the wrong thing? What if they twist my words? They'll try. But Monica and our lawyers will be there. If a question is out of line, they'll object. He sat on the edge of the bed, careful to maintain distance. "And Isla? You're going to be brilliant. I've seen you handle impossible situations with grace. This is just another one. This feels different, more personal." "It is personal. Elliot made it personal when he spent 3 years breaking you down." His jaw tightened. "But you're not broken. You're here, you're fighting back, and you're going to show him exactly what he failed to destroy." I wanted to believe him, wanted to have that confidence. What if people believe him? What if they think I'm lying about everything? Some people will believe whatever fits their narrative, but the evidence doesn't lie. The security footage, the emails, the testimony from other assistants, it all supports your account. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Elliot's counting on you being too afraid to fight back. Prove him wrong." "I'm terrified." "I know, but you're doing it anyway. That's courage, Isla. That's strength." We sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee as the sun rose over Boston. Outside, the city was waking up. Cars filling the streets, lights flickering on in office buildings, the daily rush beginning. Somewhere out there, Elliot was probably preparing too, getting his story straight, coordinating with his lawyers, planning how to destroy my credibility. The thought made my stomach clench. "Can I tell you something?" I said quietly. "Always. Part of me wishes I'd never said anything, that I'd just quit, moved on, pretended it never happened." I looked down at my coffee. It would have been so much easier. Easier for whom? For me. For you. For everyone. No. His voice was firm. Easier for Elliot. He'd still have his position, his reputation, his ability to hurt the next person. "You did the hard thing, Isla, the right thing, and I'm so goddamn proud of you for it." The words hit me like a physical touch. Proud. When was the last time someone had been proud of me? "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me. You did this." You found the courage to speak up when it would have been easier to stay silent. He stood. Now finish your coffee and get dressed. We've got a deposition to destroy, Cormac. I wanted to put my fist through something. Preferably Elliot Vance's face, but since that wasn't an option, I settled for white-knuckling the armrest of my chair in the conference room while Elliot's lawyers prepared to tear Isla apart. She sat across the table from me, flanked by Monica and our lead attorney, James Morrison. She looked small in her navy suit, hair pulled back in a professional bun, hands folded carefully in her lap. But her eyes were clear, determined. Elliot's legal team consisted of 3 lawyers, all from one of Boston's most aggressive firms. The lead attorney, Catherine Walsh, was notorious for her scorched-earth tactics in employment cases. She smiled at Isla like a shark scenting blood. Miss Hayes, thank you for agreeing to this deposition. I'm Catherine Walsh, representing Elliot Vance. For the record, please state your full name and current position. Isla Marie Hayes, Senior Analyst at Brennan Corp. Her voice was steady. And how long have you held that position? I was promoted 2 weeks ago. Before that, I was executive assistant to Elliot Vance for 3 years. 3 years, Catherine made a note. That's quite a long time to work for someone you're now claiming abused you. Why didn't you report this alleged abuse sooner? James objected immediately. Assumes facts not in evidence. Ms. Hayes hasn't claimed Mr. Vance abused her in the legal sense you're implying. Sustained, rephrased Ms. Walsh. Catherine smiled. Let me ask it differently. Ms. Hayes, if Mr. Vance's behavior was as problematic as you've indicated to HR, why did you remain in his employment for 3 years? Isla didn't hesitate. Because I needed the job. Because he convinced me that any problems were my fault. That I was failing to meet standards. Because he used Mr. Brennan's name to make me believe I was one mistake away from being fired. She paused. And because that's what psychological manipulation does. It makes you doubt your own reality. I see. So you're claiming Mr. Vance manipulated you? I'm not claiming it. It's documented fact. The security footage, the emails, the performance reviews that contradicted the quality of my work. It's all evidence of a pattern of psychological abuse. Catherine's smile tightened. Ms. Hayes, isn't it true that you struggled with the demands of your position? That you required extensive overtime to complete tasks that other assistants might have finished during normal business hours? No. That's what Mr. Vance told me, but it wasn't true. I worked extensive overtime because he assigned me more work than could be completed in a standard day. The revised Henderson analysis that took me 4 hours to redo? Mr. Brennan had already approved the original. The efficiency proposals I stayed up until midnight writing, they were never actually needed. According to you, according to documented evidence, Mr. Brennan's email approving the original Henderson analysis is time-stamped 3 days before Mr. Vance told me it needed to be revised. Catherine flipped through her notes, clearly not expecting Isla to come prepared with specifics. Let's talk about your relationship with Mr. Brennan, she said, changing tactics. When did it begin? Objection, James said immediately. Assumes facts not in evidence. I'll rephrase. Ms. Hayes, what is the nature of your relationship with Cormac Brennan? He's my employer. I report directly to him following Mr. Vance's termination. And is that all he is? Just your employer? Isla's expression didn't change. Yes. You're not romantically involved? No. You're not currently staying at his apartment? I tensed. They'd been watching her building. Of course they had. I'm staying at a secure location due to harassment from reporters that your client's lawsuit generated. Mr. Brennan offered his guest room because my apartment is currently unsafe. That's not a romantic relationship. That's an employer ensuring his employees' safety. How convenient. The CEO of a multi-million-dollar company just happens to offer you his personal residence. Yes. Because unlike your client, Mr. Brennan actually cares about the well-being of his employees. Catherine's eyes gleamed. She'd gotten Isla to show emotion, annoyance in her tone, fire in her eyes. "Ms. Hayes, isn't it true that you've been infatuated with Mr. Brennan since you started at the company? That you saw an opportunity to get rid of Mr. Vance, your supervisor, and positioned yourself to get closer to the CEO?" "Objection," James stood. "Counsel is testifying, not asking questions." "Withdrawn." Catherine leaned back. "Let me ask it this way. Did you ever express interest in Mr. Brennan to anyone? Friends? Colleagues? Anyone?" "No. For 3 years I was terrified of Mr. Brennan because Mr. Vance convinced me he was looking for reasons to fire me. I avoided him whenever possible. There are multiple witnesses who can verify that I would leave meetings early or take stairs instead of elevators to avoid encountering him. But that changed after Mr. Vance's termination, didn't it?" "Yes, because I learned that everything Mr. Vance had told me was a lie, that Mr. Brennan had never said the things Mr. Vance claimed, that my fear was manufactured through systematic psychological manipulation. Or," Catherine said smoothly, "you saw an opportunity. Mr. Vance was a barrier between you and the CEO. Remove him, claim abuse, and suddenly you have direct access to one of Boston's most eligible bachelors." Isla laughed. Actually laughed. "You think I wanted this? I wanted to do my job quietly, prove myself, build a career. Instead, I spent 3 years having panic attacks in bathrooms, working myself into exhaustion, believing I was fundamentally inadequate. Your client destroyed my mental health, my self-esteem, my ability to trust my own judgment. If you think I'd orchestrate that for access to anyone, you're delusional. Ms. Hayes, and for the record, I didn't remove Mr. Vance. Mr. Brennan fired him after conducting an independent investigation that included security footage, emails, and testimony from multiple witnesses. I didn't ask for that investigation. I didn't even want to participate in it initially because I was so conditioned to protect your client that I couldn't imagine speaking against him." Catherine's jaw tightened. Isla was supposed to be the easy target, young, traumatized, easily flustered. Instead, she was holding her own. "Let's talk about the performance improvement plan Mr. Vance gave you," Catherine said. "You claim it was designed to make you fail, but isn't it standard practice to put underperforming employees on improvement plans?" "Yes. For underperforming employees, I wasn't underperforming. Every piece of work I submitted to Mr. Brennan was approved, often with praise. The performance improvement plan was designed to create impossible standards I couldn't meet, giving Mr. Vance justification to terminate me." "Why would he want to terminate you after 3 years?" "Because I was becoming too competent, too knowledgeable about his work. Mr. Vance was embezzling from the company. Our forensic accountants found evidence of that during the investigation. I worked closely with his financial reports. Eventually, I would have noticed the discrepancies." Catherine went pale. "That's a serious accusation." "It's a documented fact. The embezzlement evidence is part of the reason Mr. Vance's wrongful termination suit has no merit. He wasn't fired for discriminatory reasons. He was fired for cause, multiple causes, including financial fraud." I watched Catherine realize she'd walked into a trap. Elliot had clearly not told his lawyers about the embezzlement. Why would he, when it would destroy his case? "I think we need a break," Catherine said tightly. "Agreed," James said, standing. 15 minutes, Zilla. I made it to the bathroom before my hands started shaking. Monica followed me, waited while I splashed cold water on my face. "You're doing amazingly," she said. "You're calm, specific, unshakable." Walsh is used to people falling apart under her questioning. She doesn't know what to do with you. "I don't feel calm. I feel like I'm going to throw up." "But you're not showing it. That's what matters." Monica handed me a paper towel. "They're going to come back harder after the break. Push on your relationship with Mr. Brennan. Try to find inconsistencies in your timeline. Just stick to the truth. The truth is complicated." "How so?" I looked at Monica's reflection in the mirror. "The truth is that I'm staying at his apartment, that I have dinner with his sister, that when he looks at me, I feel safe in a way I haven't felt in years, that maybe there could be something between us eventually, when the power dynamic isn't so skewed and I'm not so broken." Monica was quiet for a moment. "Have you told him any of that?" No. And I won't. Not while he's my boss. Not while I'm this vulnerable. But it's still true. I turned to face her. Does that make me a liar? It makes you human. There's nothing wrong with developing feelings for someone who treats you with kindness after years of abuse. The question is, are those feelings influencing your testimony? No. Everything I've said about Elliot is true. The abuse happened. The manipulation happened. Even if I'd never met Cormac, even if I'd gone to a different CEO, the facts would be the same. Then that's what matters legally, Monica smiled. But personally, I think you should tell him. After all this is over, when you're healed and the power dynamic is less fraught, I think he'd want to know. How do you know? Because I've worked here for 8 years, and I've never seen Cormac Brennan look at anyone the way he looks at you. Like, you're simultaneously the most precious and the most terrifying thing in his world. Before I could respond, someone knocked. Ms. Hayes. They're ready to resume. I took a deep breath, checked my reflection one more time, and walked back into the conference room. Catherine was waiting, and she looked like she'd spent the break sharpening her knives. Ms. Hayes, let's return to your relationship with Mr. Brennan. You testified that you were afraid of him for 3 years. Can you describe the moment that fear ended? The elevator conversation. He asked me why I was afraid, offered to help if someone was hurting me. The concern in his voice didn't match what Mr. Vance had told me about him. So one conversation was enough to completely change your perception? No, it was enough to make me question what I'd been told. The actual change came when Mr. Brennan showed me evidence, emails, security footage, documentation that proved Mr. Vance had been lying. And after seeing this evidence, you immediately began staying at Mr. Brennan's apartment. No, I stayed at Mr. Brennan's apartment after reporters surrounded my building following Mr. Vance's lawsuit. That was 2 weeks after the initial evidence. 2 weeks during which you had multiple private meetings with Mr. Brennan. 2 weeks during which I gave testimony to HR, met with legal counsel, and yes, had several conversations with Mr. Brennan about the investigation and my transition to a new role. Private conversations, in his office, behind closed doors. I could see where she was going, trying to make it sound sordid, inappropriate. Yes. Because the details of an abuse investigation are confidential, would you prefer we discuss them in the hallway where anyone could overhear? I'd prefer you be honest about the nature of those conversations. I am being honest. We discussed the investigation, my testimony, my new role, and how to handle Mr. Vance's inevitable retaliation. That's it. You expect this court to believe that a powerful, wealthy CEO spent hours in private meetings with a young, attractive employee purely out of professional concern. James objected, but I answered anyway. I expect this court to believe the evidence. And the evidence shows that Mr. Brennan has conducted himself with complete professionalism throughout this entire situation. The fact that you can't imagine a man caring about a woman's well-being without ulterior motives says more about your worldview than his character. Catherine's face flushed. Ms. Hayes. I'm done answering questions about my relationship with Mr. Brennan. It's not relevant to Mr. Vance's lawsuit, and you're only asking to embarrass me and discredit my testimony. If you have questions about the actual abuse I experienced, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we're finished here. Silence fell over the conference room. Catherine looked at her co-counsel, who shrugged. No further questions, she said tightly. James stood. I have a few redirect questions, if the witness is willing. I nodded, exhausted but relieved. Miss Hayes, in your 3 years working for Mr. Vance, did he ever praise your work? In the first 6 months, yes. After that, almost never. And when he did, it was always qualified. This is good, but, or, CB might like this. We'll see. Did Mr. Brennan ever directly criticize your work to you? No, never. Every criticism I received allegedly from Mr. Brennan came through Mr. Vance. I never heard it directly. And when you finally saw Mr. Brennan's actual feedback on your work, what was it like? Positive, sometimes glowing. The Henderson analysis Mr. Vance told me to revise? Mr. Brennan had emailed him calling it the best methodology section I've seen in months. The Q3 projections I sent at 10 p.m. on a Friday? He responded with, "Excellent work. Take the weekend off." So Mr. Vance was lying about Mr. Brennan's feedback? Consistently. For 3 years. Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Nothing further. The deposition ended at noon. Catherine and her team left quickly, avoiding eye contact. I sat very still, afraid that if I moved, I'd fall apart. Monica touched my shoulder. "You were incredible, truly. I feel like I'm going to be sick." Normal reaction. "Come on, let's get you out of here." Cormac appeared at my side immediately. "Isla." "I'm okay, I just need air." He guided me to a private office, closed the door, and suddenly I was crying. Not delicate tears, ugly, gasping sobs that came from somewhere deep inside. Cormac pulled me against his chest, held me while I fell apart. "I hate this," I choked out. "I hate that he's making me relive everything. I hate that people think I'm lying. I hate—" I know. His hand stroked my hair. "But it's done. You did it. And you were magnificent. I told them about us. Kind of. I said, maybe there could be something eventually." He went still. "Isla, I know it's complicated. I know the timing is terrible. I know you're my boss and I'm vulnerable, and this is probably just trauma bonding or transference or whatever the therapist I can't afford would call it." I pulled back to look at him. "But it's still true, and I needed to say it once, even if nothing comes of it." He looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Then he cupped my face in his hands, thumbs brushing away my tears. "When this is over," he said quietly, "when the lawsuit is settled and you've had time to heal and the power dynamic is less impossible, ask me again." "Ask you what?" "If there could be something between us." His eyes were intense, honest. "And I'll tell you the truth." "Which is?" "That I've been halfway in love with you since I saw you in that elevator, shaking with fear but still standing. That watching you find your strength has been the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed. That every rule I have about not getting involved with employees has been in a war with how much I want you in my life." My breath caught. "But," he continued, "you need time, you need to heal, to find yourself again without someone else's voice in your head. And I need to know that if you choose me, it's because you want to, not because I'm safe, or because you're grateful, or because you don't know who you are without someone directing your life." "That's very rational," I whispered. "I'm trying to do the right thing here." "I know." I touched his face, felt the stubble rough beneath my palm. "Thank you for being patient, for understanding." "Always," he said. And then, because neither of us was strong enough to resist, he kissed me. Soft, gentle, like a promise of something that might happen someday. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "After," he said firmly. "When you're ready, when we can do this right." "After," I agreed. But the word tasted like hope. Chapter 7. The Truth Comes Out. Cormac. The deposition footage leaked 3 days later. Not the whole thing. That would have been too useful. Just carefully edited clips designed to make Isla look unstable, vindictive, and evasive. Her voice saying maybe there could be something between us eventually played on loop on every gossip site in Boston. The context, that she was talking hypothetically, after the lawsuit, after time to heal, conveniently omitted. The headlines were predictable. Brennan Corp employee admits to pursuing CEO. Star witness in Vance lawsuit caught in romantic confession. Gold digger OR genuine? Isla Hayes' deposition raises questions. I watched the news coverage from my office. Phone clenched so tight in my hand I was surprised it didn't crack. Patrick appeared in my doorway. "Boss, we've got a problem." "Just one?" "Elliot's doing interviews. He's on Channel 7 right now." I pulled up the live stream on my computer. Elliot sat across from a sympathetic interviewer, looking wounded and earnest. He'd styled himself as the victim, rumpled suit, tired eyes, the picture of a man who'd been wronged. "I dedicated 8 years to that company," he was saying. Mentored countless employees, including Isla Hayes. I treated her like family. And this is how I'm repaid. False accusations, character assassination, watching my reputation destroyed because I stood between her and what she wanted. What do you think she wanted? The interviewer asked. Access, power, Cormac Brennan. Elliot shook his head sadly. I saw the signs early on. The way she'd find excuses to be on the executive floor, the questions about his personal life. I tried to redirect her focus to her work, to help her build genuine skills rather than rely on other methods of advancement. Clearly, she resented that. You're saying she fabricated abuse allegations to remove you as an obstacle? I'm saying the evidence will speak for itself. But yes, I believe this entire situation has been orchestrated by someone who saw an opportunity and took it, regardless of who got hurt along the way. My intercom buzzed. Mr. Brennan, Isla is here. She looks upset. Send her in. Isla burst through the door, laptop in hand, face flushed with rage. Have you seen this? She slammed the laptop on my desk, showing Elliot's interview. He's lying. Every single word is a lie, and people are believing him. I know. Patrick's already working with our PR team to respond. A response isn't enough. He's destroying my reputation, my credibility. Her voice broke. Everything I said in that deposition is being twisted. People think I'm some calculating seductress who invented abuse to sleep my way to the top. I stood, moved around the desk. Isla, don't tell me to calm down, or that it'll be fine. It won't be fine. Even if we win the lawsuit, even if Elliot goes to prison for embezzlement, people will always wonder if I was telling the truth. If maybe I was just a smart opportunist who played the system. She was right. The damage to her reputation might be permanent, regardless of the outcome. Then we go nuclear, I said. She looked up at me. What? We release everything. The full deposition, not just the edited clips. The security footage of Elliot's abuse. The emails. The testimony from other assistants. We let the public see exactly what he did. That's my private trauma. She stopped. You want to make it public? Only if you're willing. It's your story, Isla, your choice. But if we're going to fight him, we fight with the truth. All of it. She was quiet for a long moment, thinking. If we do this, there's no taking it back. Everyone will know. My family, my friends, strangers on the internet, they'll all see me at my lowest. They'll also see your strength, your courage. They'll see a woman who survived systematic abuse and had the guts to fight back. Or they'll see a victim, someone weak, broken, damaged. You're not broken. I stepped closer. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. And anyone who watches that footage and sees weakness instead of resilience isn't worth your concern. She looked at me, searching my face for something. If I do this, it changes everything. No more privacy, no more hiding. Everything becomes public. I know. Including us. Whatever this is between us, people will dissect it, analyze it, use it as ammunition. Let them, I said quietly. I don't care what people think about my personal life. I care about you being safe, and your truth being heard. She took a shaky breath. Okay, let's do it. Release everything, Isla. The press conference was scheduled for Friday afternoon. Monica, James, and I spent 2 days preparing. They wanted to coordinate the message, control the narrative, make sure we had answers for every possible question. But I had one condition. I wanted to speak. Isla, you don't have to do this, Monica said Thursday night. We were in a conference room at the legal offices, surrounded by empty coffee cups and printed transcripts. We can have James make a statement, answer questions. You don't need to put yourself in front of cameras. Yes, I do. Elliot's been telling his version of events on every news channel that will have him. People need to hear from me. Not through lawyers or PR statements. From me. It's going to be brutal, James warned. Reporters will ask invasive questions. They'll try to get you emotional, catch you off guard. I've spent 3 years walking on eggshells, measuring every word, terrified of making mistakes. I'm done hiding. I looked at both of them. I survived Elliot Vance's abuse. I can survive some difficult questions. Monica smiled. All right, but we're putting parameters in place. Questions about the abuse case only. Nothing about your personal life with Mr. Brennan. No. They both looked at me. No parameters. If they want to ask about Cormac, let them. If they want to know if we're involved, I'll tell them the truth. Isla, that's not advisable. The truth is the only weapon we have. Elliot's built his defense on the idea that I'm lying, that I invented abuse to get close to Cormac. If I hide our relationship, whatever it is, that supports his narrative. I sat forward, but if I'm honest about everything, including the fact that yes, I have feelings for my boss, and yes, it's complicated, and no, it doesn't change the fact that Elliot tortured me for 3 years, then I take away his ammunition. James and Monica exchanged a look. This is a terrible idea from a legal standpoint, James said. But it's brilliant from a human one, Monica added. People respond to authenticity, to vulnerability. If you stand up there and tell your truth, all of it, without apology or shame, it's powerful. It's also risky, James countered. If you say the wrong thing, then I say the wrong thing. At least it'll be my words, not Elliot's lies. They argued about it for another hour, but I didn't budge. Finally, James sighed. Fine. But Isla, think very carefully about what you're willing to expose. Once you say it, you can't take it back. I thought about the elevator, about crying in Cormac's arms, about the kiss that had tasted like promises we couldn't make yet. I know, I said. I'm ready. Friday arrived with gray skies and a cold rain that felt appropriate. I dressed carefully. Navy suit, white blouse, minimal jewelry. Professional, but not trying too hard. Hair down, because pulling it back felt like hiding. Cormac knocked on the guest room door at 7. You don't have to do this, he said when I opened it. Even now, even after all the preparation, you can change your mind. I'm not changing my mind. Isla. He ran a hand through his hair. What you said to Monica and James about being honest about us. You don't owe anyone that information. You especially don't owe it to reporters who are going to twist whatever you say. I know, but I owe it to myself. I spent 3 years lying, to Elliot, to myself, to everyone. I'm done lying. Even if it costs you? Even then. I touched his arm. Cormac, I'm going to tell them that I care about you, that there might be something between us someday. Is that going to be a problem? He looked at me for a long moment. No, but I'm going to be standing up there too, and when they ask me if I'm involved with you, I'm going to tell them the truth. Which is that I fired Elliot Vance because he was abusing his employees. That you're an exceptionally talented analyst who deserved better treatment. And that, yes, I care about you as more than just an employee. But that relationship is on hold until you've had time to heal and we can explore it without a power imbalance. My breath caught. You're going to say that? Publicly? I'm done lying too. He stepped closer. Elliot wants to make this about an inappropriate relationship? Fine. Let's show everyone what actual integrity looks like. What it looks like when two people care about each other but choose to do things the right way. The media is going to have a field day. Let them. I don't build my life around what the media thinks. His hand came up to cup my face. I build it around what's right. And this, you, feels right. I leaned into his touch. After, he agreed. When you're ready. When we can do this properly. A knock at the door. Patrick's voice. Car's here. We need to leave in 5. We'll be right there, Cormac called. He looked at me one more time. You sure about this? Completely. Then let's go show them the truth. The press conference was held at a hotel conference room, neutral ground, away from Brennan Corp offices. The room was packed. Reporters from every major outlet, cameras lining the back wall, the buzz of anticipatory conversation. I sat at a long table with Cormac on my right, Monica on my left, James beside her. In front of each of us was a microphone and a bottle of water I knew I'd be too nervous to drink. James opened with a statement outlining the case, the evidence, the timeline. He spoke for 10 minutes, laying out facts with clinical precision. Then it was Cormac's turn. "Thank you all for coming. I want to address the allegations Mr. Vance has made about both myself and Ms. Hayes." He looked directly into the cameras. Elliot Vance was terminated from Brennan Corp after an internal investigation revealed systematic abuse of his assistants over a period of years. We have security footage, emails, and testimony from multiple witnesses documenting this abuse. We also discovered evidence of financial fraud that's currently under investigation by federal authorities. Murmurs rippled through the room. Mr. Vance's lawsuit claims his termination was discriminatory and that the abuse allegations are fabricated as part of an inappropriate relationship between myself and Ms. Hayes. I want to be absolutely clear. These claims are false. The evidence of abuse is extensive and irrefutable. However, I also want to be honest about something else. He paused, looked at me. I nodded. I do care about Isla Hayes. She's an exceptional employee, a courageous person, and yes, someone I've come to care about personally. But that relationship is not romantic or sexual at this time. We've both agreed that any personal relationship should wait until after she's had time to heal from the abuse she experienced, and until the power dynamic between us is less fraught. The room erupted with questions. James held up a hand. We'll take questions in a moment. First, Ms. Hayes has a statement. All eyes turned to me. I took a breath, looked down at the notes I'd prepared, then decided to ignore them. My name is Isla Hayes. 3 years ago, I accepted a position as executive assistant to Elliot Vance. I was excited, grateful, and determined to prove myself worthy of the opportunity. My voice was steady. Within 6 months, that excitement had turned to anxiety. Within a year, I was having panic attacks in bathrooms, working 80-hour weeks trying to meet impossible standards, terrified of making mistakes that might get me fired. I looked directly at the cameras. Elliot Vance spent 3 years systematically destroying my sense of self-worth. He criticized everything I did, claimed that Cormac Brennan, a man I'd barely interacted with, was constantly disappointed in my work. He created a reality where I believed I was failing at every turn, despite evidence to the contrary. He isolated me, controlled me, and made me feel worthless. My hands were shaking. I gripped the edge of the table. When I finally learned the truth, that Cormac had never said the things Elliot claimed, that my work was actually exceptional, that I'd been manipulated for years, I felt like I'd woken up from a nightmare. But the nightmare wasn't over, because Elliot decided to destroy my reputation rather than accept responsibility for his actions. I paused, took a sip of water. People are saying I invented abuse allegations to pursue a relationship with Cormac Brennan, that I'm a gold digger, an opportunist, a liar. Here's the truth. Yes, I care about Cormac. How could I not? He saw what was happening to me and stopped it. He treated me with respect and kindness when I'd forgotten what those things felt like. He made me feel safe for the first time in years. The room was silent now. But my feelings for him don't change the facts of what Elliot did. They don't erase 3 years of documented abuse. They don't make the security footage disappear, or the emails vanish. The abuse was real. My trauma is real. And Elliot Vance's attempt to rewrite history doesn't change that. I looked directly at the camera I knew was feeding to the major networks. To anyone watching who's experienced workplace abuse, it's not your fault. It's not weakness. It's not failing to meet standards. It's someone with power choosing to hurt you. And you deserve better. You deserve to be believed, to be safe, to be treated with dignity. I sat back. Now I'll take questions. Hands shot up across the room. James pointed to a reporter in the front. You, go ahead. Ms. Hayes, can you describe the worst incident of abuse you experienced? I'd prepared for this question. The performance improvement plan. Elliot gave me 30 days to meet metrics he knew were impossible. Complete my workload in 8 hours when he was assigning 12 hours of work. Propose efficiency improvements he'd shoot down. Maintain a positive attitude while being told I was failing. It was designed to make me fail so he could justify firing me. Why would he want to fire you after 3 years? Because I was getting too competent, too knowledgeable about his financial reports. Eventually, I would have noticed the embezzlement. Another reporter: are you currently in a relationship with Cormac Brennan? No. We've both agreed that any personal relationship should wait until I've had time to heal, and the power dynamic is less complicated. But you admit you have feelings for him? Yes, I'm not going to lie about that, but feelings and actions are different things. I can care about someone and still make the ethical choice to wait until the circumstances are appropriate. Mr. Brennan, a reporter called out, do you think it's appropriate to pursue a relationship with an employee? Cormac leaned forward. I think it's appropriate to be honest about human feelings while maintaining professional boundaries. Isla and I have not acted on any attraction. We've been transparent with HR, with legal counsel, and now with you. When and if we choose to pursue a relationship, it will be done ethically, with full transparency and appropriate changes to our professional arrangement. Such as Isla transitioning to a role where she doesn't report to me directly, such as involving HR and oversight to ensure there's no favoritism or inappropriate use of power, such as making sure she has genuine autonomy to make her own choices without pressure from me. That seems like a lot of work for a relationship that might not even happen. That's because doing things right is often more work than doing them wrong, Cormac said flatly. But it's worth it. The questions continued for another 30 minutes. Some were hostile, designed to trip me up. Others were genuinely curious. A few were sympathetic. Through it all, I told the truth. About the abuse, about my feelings, about the complicated reality of recovering from trauma while developing unexpected feelings for someone in a position of power. When it finally ended, I felt wrung out but lighter. You did beautifully, Monica whispered as we filed out through a back exit, avoiding the crowd of reporters still shouting questions. I just told the truth. That's why it was beautiful. We made it to the car, Patrick at the wheel, and pulled away from the hotel. My phone started buzzing immediately. Text messages, voicemails, notifications. I ignored them all except one. From Maeve: you're my fucking hero, drinks tonight, my place, no arguments. I smiled despite my exhaustion. Cormac's hand found mine in the back seat. How are you holding up? Ask me in a few hours when the media has had time to dissect everything I said. They're going to love you, or hate you, possibly both. That's comforting. He squeezed my hand. The truth is out now. Whatever happens next, at least it's based on reality instead of Elliot's lies. I leaned my head against his shoulder, too tired to worry about propriety or what it might look like. Thank you, I said quietly, for standing up there with me. For being honest even when it would have been easier to hide. Always, he said. And I felt his lips brush against the top of my head, so quick and gentle I might have imagined it. Except I didn't imagine the way his hand tightened on mine, or the way my heart stuttered in response. After, we'd said. But after was starting to feel a lot closer than it had before. Cormac. The media response was immediate and divided. Half the coverage was sympathetic. Stories about workplace abuse, think pieces on power dynamics, interviews with other victims of similar situations. The other half was vicious, accusations that Isla was playing victim, that I was covering for an affair, that the whole thing was a publicity stunt. I didn't care about any of it. What I cared about was the email that arrived Saturday morning from Elliot's legal team. Mr. Brennan, in light of recent developments and evidence presented at yesterday's press conference, Mr. Vance has agreed to drop his wrongful termination lawsuit. He maintains his innocence regarding all allegations but wishes to avoid further media scrutiny. In exchange, he requests that Brennan Corp agree not to pursue criminal charges related to the financial discrepancies discovered during the investigation. Please respond by Monday 5 p.m. I forwarded it to James with a single line, counter-offer. His response came within minutes. Hell no, we've got him. Push for admission of wrongdoing, agreement to never work in Boston again, and full cooperation with FBI on embezzlement investigation. I smiled. This was going to be satisfying. My doorbell rang. I checked the camera. Isla, holding a bag from the bakery down the street. I opened the door. You're supposed to be at Maeve's. I left early. She and her friends were planning my entire life, including which dating apps I should be on, after you're done with your boss situation. She held up the bag. I brought breakfast as a thank you for letting me crash here all week. You don't have to thank me. I know, but I wanted to. She stepped inside, and I caught the scent of her shampoo, something floral and light. Also, I might have a favor to ask. What kind of favor? The kind where you help me look at apartments today because I can't stay here forever, and I need to find a place before the reporters figure out I'm living with you, and the internet explodes. She was right, but I hated it. Hated the idea of her leaving, even though I knew she needed her own space. I'll help on one condition, I said. What's that? You let me cover the security deposit as a thank you for your work on the Romano account, purely professional. She gave me a look. That's not professional at all. Fine, as a personal loan, you can pay me back over time. Cormac, please, let me do this. You shouldn't have to drain your savings because my COO was a monster. She was quiet for a moment. Then, okay, but I'm paying you back, every penny, with interest. I'll accept payment in the form of those ridiculous watercolors Maeve keeps texting me about. That got a smile. Deal. We spent the morning looking at apartments. Most were too expensive, too far from the office, or in buildings that had all the charm of a concrete prison. The last one was perfect. 1 bedroom in a renovated brownstone in the South End. Exposed brick, hardwood floors, windows that actually let in natural light. The building had security, the neighborhood was safe, and it was a 15-minute walk from Brennan Corp. It's perfect, Isla said, standing in the middle of the empty living room. But the rent is within your salary range now that you're a senior analyst, I reminded her, and you have that promotion bonus coming. She turned to face me. Why are you being so nice to me? Because you deserve nice things. Because you've had 3 years of someone making you feel worthless, and I'm trying to show you that's not reality. Or because you're secretly hoping I'll fall madly in love with you and forget all about appropriate professional boundaries. She said it lightly, joking, but there was a question underneath. If that happens, I said carefully, it'll be because you chose it. Not because I manipulated you with expensive apartments or professional favors. Your choices are your own, Isla, always. She crossed the empty room, stood in front of me. Too close for professional distance, but not quite close enough for anything else. What if I'm already choosing? She asked quietly. What if I've been choosing for a while now? My heart was pounding. Then we still wait. Because you deserve to make that choice when you're healed, when you're certain, when there's no question that it's what you genuinely want. You're very noble. I'm trying to do right by you. I know. She reached up, touched my face. That's why I'm choosing you. I caught her hand, held it against my cheek. After, when the lawsuit is settled, when you've had time in your own space, when you're sure. I'm sure now. You think you are. But you're still healing, still figuring out who you are without Elliot's voice in your head. Give yourself time, Isla. If this is real, if what's between us is real, it'll still be there in a few months. She smiled, sad but understanding. You're right, I hate it, but you're right. I usually am. Arrogant. Accurate. She laughed, and I felt the sound in my chest like a physical thing. Come on, I said, releasing her hand before I did something stupid. Let's go tell the landlord you'll take it. Chapter 8. The Aftermath. Isla. The settlement came through 3 weeks later. Elliot dropped the wrongful termination suit in exchange for Brennan Corp not pursuing criminal charges on the embezzlement, at least not directly. Instead, all evidence was turned over to federal authorities, who were building their own case. He also signed an agreement admitting to, quote, management practices that fell below company standards and promising never to seek employment in Boston's tech sector again. It wasn't everything I'd wanted. I'd wanted him to admit to abuse, to apologize, to face real consequences. But it was something. He's going to prison anyway, Monica explained when we reviewed the settlement documents. The FBI has him dead to rights on the embezzlement. This agreement just means we're not tied up in litigation for the next 2 years. You can move on. Move on. I'd been trying to do exactly that. My new apartment was move-in ready. I'd spent the past week furniture shopping with Maeve, who had opinions about everything from throw pillows to kitchen appliances. The space was slowly transforming from empty shell to actual home. My therapy appointments were helping. Dr. Chen was patient, insightful, and didn't let me get away with minimizing what I'd been through. You keep saying it wasn't that bad or other people have it worse, she'd said in our last session. But trauma isn't a competition. What happened to you was severe psychological abuse. You're allowed to acknowledge that. Work was complicated. I'd been reassigned to a new division, working on strategic analysis for expansion projects. My new supervisor, Caroline Porter, was professional, encouraging, and nothing like Elliot. She praised good work, offered constructive feedback on areas for improvement, and never once made me feel like I was failing. It was disorienting how normal it felt. The problem was Cormac. We'd barely seen each other since I'd moved out 2 weeks ago. Oh, we were in the same building, occasionally passed in hallways, exchanged polite greetings in the elevator. But the easy intimacy we developed when I was staying at his place, the morning coffee conversations, the late-night talks about everything and nothing, the casual touches that meant more than they should, all of that was gone. He was giving me space, exactly what he'd promised, and I hated it. You're being ridiculous, Maeve said over drinks Thursday night. We were at a wine bar near my new apartment, and I was on my 3rd glass. You literally asked for this. Time to heal, figure out who you are, blah, blah, blah. He's respecting your boundaries. I know. That's what makes it worse. I swirled the wine in my glass. When he was being protective and intense and basically declaring his feelings while also being noble about waiting, it was romantic. Now he's actually waiting and I'm just lonely. So tell him you're ready. I've only been in therapy for 3 weeks. That's not enough time to heal from 3 years of abuse. Says who? Some arbitrary timeline? Maeve leaned forward. Isla, healing isn't linear. It's not like you hit some magical date and suddenly you're fixed. You're doing the work. Therapy. Building a life outside of work. Painting again. That's healing. But what if I'm not ready? What if I think I am, but I'm just latching onto him because he makes me feel safe? Do you think that's what this is? I considered the question honestly. No, I think I'm genuinely attracted to him, to who he is, not just what he represents. I love how he thinks, how he cares about people, his dry sense of humor. I love that he's patient and infuriating and noble to a fault. I paused. But I'm also scared. What if we try this and I'm too damaged? What if I can't have a healthy relationship because Elliot broke something fundamental in me? Then you work through it. Together. Maeve touched my hand. Isla, there's no perfect time. No moment where you'll be completely healed and ready with zero baggage. If you wait for that, you'll wait forever. Your brother would disagree. My brother is an idiot, a well-intentioned idiot, but still, she grinned. He's been miserable, by the way. Snapping at people, working even longer hours than usual, generally being a brooding nightmare. Patrick says he's never seen him like this. Really? Really, whatever noble intentions Core had about giving you space, it's killing him. She squeezed my hand. So maybe it's time to have a conversation. Tell him where you're at, what you want. Let him make his own choice about whether you're ready. I thought about that as I walked home later, slightly tipsy and completely confused. The truth was, I missed him. Missed his presence, his voice, the way he looked at me, like I was the most important thing in the room. But I also valued what he'd given me, space to breathe, to figure out who I was without someone controlling me. Was it possible to want both? My phone buzzed as I was unlocking my apartment door. A text from Cormac. I know it's late, but I just saw the news about the settlement. Wanted to make sure you're okay. I stared at the message, heart racing. Before I could overthink it, I called him. He answered immediately. Isla. Just my name, but I heard everything underneath it. Relief, concern, something that sounded like longing. I'm okay, I said. Better than okay, actually. It's over, really over. How do you feel about that? Lighter, like I can finally breathe. I kicked off my shoes, sank onto my new couch. A little anticlimactic, honestly. I expected to feel more triumphant, but mostly I just feel tired. That's normal. You've been running on adrenaline for weeks. Now that the threat's gone, your body is catching up. Dr. Chen said something similar. I paused. I miss you. Silence on the other end. Then, I miss you too. This space thing, the healing, the waiting. It made sense when you first suggested it. But Cormac, it's been a month. I'm in therapy. I have my own apartment. I'm doing the work. How much longer are we supposed to wait? As long as you need. What if I don't need more time? What if I'm ready now? Isla, I'm not saying I'm completely healed. I'm not saying I don't have work to do. But I know what I want. And I want you. Not because you're safe. Not because I'm grateful. But because I genuinely care about you. I took a breath. So tell me, when is it enough? When do we get to try? More silence. I could almost hear him thinking, weighing options, trying to do the right thing. Are you asking me out? He finally said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Maybe. Would you say yes if I was? That depends. Where would this hypothetical date be? Somewhere that's not your office or my apartment. Somewhere we can just be two people without all the baggage and history. That's a tall order in a city where everyone knows my face. Then we go somewhere they don't. Cape Cod, the Berkshires, Vermont. I was warming to the idea now. Somewhere we can be Cormac and Isla, not CEO and traumatized employee. You're serious about this? Completely, unless you're going to tell me I need more time, in which case I'm going to be very annoyed. He laughed, a real laugh, unguarded and warm. I would never dare. You're terrifying when you're annoyed. So is that a yes? On one condition. What's that? We tell HR first, make it official. Get everything documented so there's no question that this is consensual, above board, and we're handling it properly. You really are noble to a fault. I'm covering our asses. There's a difference, his voice softened. But yes, Isla, I would very much like to take you on a date, preferably this weekend if you're free. My heart was racing. I'm free. Good. I'll plan something. Pack for outdoors and bring something nice for dinner. Mysterious. I have my moments, he paused. Isla, thank you. For what? For being brave enough to ask, for knowing what you want and going after it, for being you. I smiled, warmth spreading through my chest. You're welcome. Now go to sleep. You sound exhausted. I am. Haven't been sleeping well. Why not? Because I've been missing you and trying to be noble about it. Turns out that's exhausting. Poor baby. Indeed. I'll see you tomorrow. In HR, apparently. In HR, he confirmed. Sleep well, Isla. You too, Cormac. I hung up and sat on my couch, grinning like an idiot. We were doing this. Really doing this. And for the first time in years, I felt nothing but excitement about what came next. Cormac. The HR meeting Friday morning was simultaneously the most professional and most awkward conversation I'd ever had. Caroline Martinez, the head of HR, sat across from Isla and me with a clipboard and an expression that managed to be both supportive and skeptical. So, she said, you want to date? We want to ensure that if we date, it's done ethically and with full transparency. I corrected. Right. Because you're the CEO and she's an employee who until recently was embroiled in a lawsuit involving your former COO. Caroline made a note. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying this is complicated. We're aware, Isla said. That's why we're here. We want to do this right. Okay, then here's what needs to happen. Caroline pulled out a document. First, we need written acknowledgement from both of you that this relationship is consensual and that there's no quid pro quo, no promises of advancement, no threats of retaliation, nothing that could be construed as coercive. Done, I said. Second, Isla, you cannot report to Cormac directly. You're already in a different division, so that's handled. But there needs to be a clear reporting structure that doesn't involve him. I report to Caroline Porter, Isla confirmed. Good. Third, there needs to be periodic check-ins with HR to ensure the relationship isn't creating conflicts of interest or affecting workplace dynamics. Monthly for the first 6 months, quarterly after that. Fine, I agreed. Fourth, if the relationship ends, you both need to conduct yourselves professionally. No retaliation, no hostile work environment, no making others uncomfortable. We understand, Isla said. Caroline studied us both. I'm going to be honest with you. This is unusual. We don't typically encourage relationships between executives and employees, regardless of reporting structure. The power differential is real. I know, I said. That's why we waited. Why we're doing this now. After Isla's had time to establish herself independently. After the lawsuit. After she's had space to make her own choices. And Isla, Caroline turned to her, are you absolutely certain this is what you want? Because once you sign this document, if things go south, there's no claiming you were coerced or manipulated. This is your informed consent. I'm certain, Isla said firmly. I'm not being pressured. I'm not being manipulated. I'm making an informed choice as an adult who knows what she wants. Caroline looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. All right, then let's make it official. We signed the documents, Caroline witnessed them, and just like that, Isla and I were officially, documentably, appropriately dating. Congratulations, Caroline said dryly. You've just set a new record for most bureaucratic romance in company history. I'm honored, I said. After the meeting, I walked Isla back to her floor. We stopped outside the elevator, suddenly awkward. So, she said, we're dating. Officially. That's very romantic. I can be romantic. Tomorrow, on our actual date. I wanted to touch her, take her hand, pull her close, but we were in the office, surrounded by people who didn't know yet. I should get to work, she said. Caroline wants the expansion analysis by end of day. Go, be brilliant. I'll pick you up at 8 tomorrow morning. 8? That's early for a date. I told you to pack for outdoors. We have a lot of ground to cover. She smiled, and I felt it like sunshine. I can't wait. She started to walk away, then turned back. Cormac? Yes? Thank you. For waiting. For making me feel like my choices matter. For doing this right. Always, I said. And I watched her walk away, already counting the hours until tomorrow. Cormac picked me up at exactly 8 a.m. Saturday morning in a black SUV driven by Patrick, who grinned at me in the rearview mirror. Morning, Ms. Hayes. Excited for your mysterious adventure? Extremely. Any hints about where we're going? Boss would fire me if I told you, but I will say, dress warm when you get there. We drove north, out of the city, through suburbs that gradually gave way to forests. After an hour, we pulled off the highway onto smaller roads, then even smaller ones, until we were winding through trees with no civilization in sight. Finally, we stopped at a trailhead. Cormac got out first, grabbed a backpack from the trunk, and came around to open my door. We're hiking? I asked. For about 2 miles, there's something I want to show you, he offered his hand. Trust me? I took it. Always. The trail was beautiful. Late October in New England, leaves brilliant with color, crisp air that smelled like pine and earth. Cormac set an easy pace, pointing out landmarks, telling stories about coming here as a kid with Maeve. We'd drive up on weekends when the city got too loud, he said. Maeve would paint, I'd read, and we'd just breathe. No expectations, no pressure, just being. That sounds perfect. It was. Still is. He glanced at me. I wanted to bring you somewhere that felt like that. Somewhere with no history, no baggage, just us. After about 40 minutes, the trees opened up. We stood on an overlook, the whole valley spread below us in a riot of fall colors. A lake glittered in the distance, and mountains rose beyond that, already dusted with early snow. Oh, I breathed. Cormac, this is beautiful. I know. He set down the backpack, pulled out a thermos and 2 mugs. I thought we could have breakfast here, if you're hungry. I'm starving. He'd packed pastries from the bakery I loved, fresh fruit, good coffee. We sat on a fallen log and ate while the sun climbed higher, warming the air. Can I ask you something? I said between bites of croissant. Of course. Why me? You could have anyone. Why someone with so much baggage, so much trauma to work through? He was quiet for a moment, looking out at the view. Because baggage and trauma don't define you, he said finally. They're part of your story, but they're not all of it. When I look at you, I see someone who survived something terrible and came out stronger. Someone who found the courage to speak up when it would have been easier to stay silent. Someone who makes me laugh, challenges me, reminds me that there's more to life than work. He turned to face me. I'm not interested in some fantasy of who you could be without your past. I'm interested in exactly who you are, right now, baggage and all. Because you're remarkable, Isla, and I've been halfway in love with you since that elevator. Tears pricked my eyes. That's a very good answer. I've had time to prepare it. How long? Since the moment you asked me if we could try this. I've been rehearsing speeches in my head for a week. I laughed, wiping my eyes. You're ridiculous. I'm thorough. There's a difference. He set down his coffee, turned fully toward me. Your turn. Why me? Why someone who comes with his own baggage, his own trauma, his own tendency to be controlling when he's scared? Because you see me, I said simply. Really see me. Not as a victim, not as a project to fix, but as a person with agency and strength and value. Because you make me feel safe, while also challenging me to be braver. Because when you look at me, I don't feel invisible anymore. I reached for his hand. And because I'm pretty sure I've been falling for you since you asked me why I was afraid. Since you cared enough to look for the answer instead of just accepting my fear as normal. Isla, he said, and my name sounded like a prayer. Yes? I'm going to kiss you now, if that's okay. I've been waiting for you to ask. He smiled, and then his lips were on mine. Soft at first, tentative, like we had all the time in the world and he wanted to savor it. I melted into him, hands fisting in his jacket, and kissed him back with 3 years of pent-up longing. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. So, he said, voice rough, was that worth the wait? Completely. I touched his face, felt the stubble rough under my palm. Though, if you'd made me wait much longer, I might have killed you. Noted for future reference. We stayed on that overlook for another hour, talking and kissing and just being together without the weight of the office, the lawsuit, the expectations. Finally, reluctantly, we packed up and hiked back down. Part 2 of the date is tonight, Cormac said as Patrick drove us back toward civilization. There's an inn about 20 minutes from here. I booked 2 rooms. 2 rooms? 2 rooms, he confirmed firmly. Because despite what the rumor mill might suggest, I'm not trying to rush this. We're taking our time, doing things right. You really are noble to a fault. I prefer, respectful of boundaries. What if I told you I don't want 2 rooms? His hand tightened on mine. Then I'd say we discuss that after dinner, when we're both thinking clearly and not high on fresh air and first kisses. Fine. But for the record, I'm thinking very clearly. Noted, he said, and I caught the heat in his eyes. Cormac. Dinner was at a small restaurant attached to the inn, The kind of place where locals went for special occasions. Candlelit tables, excellent food, and most importantly, no one who recognized us. We were just Cormac and Isla, on a first date. She'd changed into a green dress that made her eyes look impossibly dark. Her hair was down, curling slightly from the outdoor air. She looked beautiful and happy, and so far removed from the terrified woman in the elevator that my chest ached. "What?" she asked, catching me staring. "Just thinking about how far you've come." "We've come," she corrected. "This isn't just my journey." "No, I suppose it's not." I reached across the table, took her hand. "I have something for you. Cormac, you've already planned this entire perfect day." "It's not a gift. It's a question." I pulled out an envelope. "The expansion analysis you've been working on. It's good, really good. So good that I want you to present it to the board next month." Her eyes widened. "What? You've done the work. You should get the credit. And frankly, they need to see what you're capable of beyond being that employee from the lawsuit. That's a huge opportunity. You've earned it. Will you do it?" She looked at the envelope, then at me. "On one condition." "What's that?" "You let me succeed or fail on my own merit. No protecting me, no softening criticism, no special treatment because we're dating." I smiled. "Deal. Though, for the record, I think you're going to blow them away." "We'll see." After dinner, we walked back to the inn. It was cold now, properly fall in New England, and Isla shivered despite her coat. I pulled her close, wrapped my arm around her shoulders. "About those 2 rooms," she said quietly. "Yes? I think one would be fine." My heart stuttered. "Isla, I'm an adult. I'm making an informed choice, and I choose to spend tonight with you if you'll have me." I stopped walking, turned to face her. "You're sure? Because there's no pressure. We can take this as slow as you need." "I'm sure. I've been sure for weeks. I just needed to be brave enough to say it." She looked up at me, eyes clear and certain. "Take me to bed, Cormac. 1 room. Together." And how could I possibly say no to that? The sun rose Sunday morning, painting the room in shades of gold. I woke with Isla in my arms, her head on my chest, one leg tangled with mine. She was still sleeping, breathing soft and even. I should have felt guilty, should have questioned whether we'd moved too fast, whether I'd pressured her somehow. Instead, I felt at peace. This was right. We were right. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. Isla stirred, opened her eyes, and smiled when she saw me watching her. "Morning," she murmured. "Morning. Any regrets?" "Not even one. You? Only that we waited so long." I kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "We waited exactly the right amount of time. Long enough for you to be ready, long enough to do it right. Always so noble. Someone has to be." She laughed, and the sound filled the room with light. We stayed in bed for another hour, talking, touching, just being together. Eventually, reluctantly, we got dressed and checked out. The drive back to Boston was comfortable, easy. Patrick pretended not to notice that we were holding hands in the back seat, that Isla was wearing my jacket, that everything between us had shifted into something new. "So," she said as we neared the city, "what happens now?" "Now we go back to our lives. You present to the board. I run the company. We have dinner on weeknights and weekends away when we can manage it." "That sounds remarkably normal. Is that okay?" "It's perfect." She squeezed my hand. "Normal is exactly what I need." Patrick dropped Isla at her apartment first. I walked her to her door, kissed her goodbye like we had all the time in the world. "See you Monday," she said. Monday, I confirmed. And I watched her go inside, already counting the hours until I saw her again. On the drive back to my place, Patrick caught my eye in the rearview mirror. "You look happy, boss." "I am." "Good. About time." I smiled, looking out at the city I'd conquered, the empire I'd built. None of it meant anything compared to the woman who'd just walked into her apartment wearing my jacket. I'd been afraid, once, of letting anyone too close. of risking the kind of loss I'd experienced before. But Isla had shown me that some risks were worth taking, that some people were worth fighting for, and that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was let yourself be afraid and love anyway. Epilogue. 6 months later. Isla. The boardroom was silent. I stood at the front, presentation complete, waiting for the verdict. 12 board members stared back at me, their expressions ranging from impressed to skeptical. Cormac sat at the head of the table, face carefully neutral. We'd agreed he wouldn't show favoritism, and he was keeping that promise with almost painful precision. Finally, Margaret Chen, the chair of the board, spoke. Ms. Hayes, I have to say, this is the most comprehensive expansion analysis I've seen in 20 years on this board. The market research is thorough, the financial projections are conservative but achievable, and the risk assessment is brutally honest. She paused. Which is why I'm recommending we move forward with your proposal immediately. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. Don't thank me, you did the work. Margaret looked around the table. All in favor? 12 hands went up. Unanimous. Congratulations, Ms. Hayes. You just got Brennan Corp a foothold in the Asian market. The meeting adjourned. Board members came up to shake my hand, ask questions, offer congratulations. Through it all, Cormac hung back, waiting. When the room finally cleared, he approached with a small smile. Well done, he said professionally. Just, well done? That's all I get? In the office? Yes. His eyes were warm despite the formal tone. Outside the office, I have significantly more effusive praise planned, possibly involving champagne in that restaurant you've been wanting to try. The one with the 6-month wait list? I made a reservation. For tonight. I shook my head, grinning. You're impossible. I'm resourceful. There's a difference. He glanced toward the door, checking we were alone. I'm proud of you, Isla. That presentation was exceptional, and you handled the board's questions brilliantly. I had a good teacher. You had good instincts. I just gave you the platform to use them. My phone buzzed. A text from Maeve, in all caps. Did you kill it, OR? Did you kill it? I laughed, showing Cormac the message. Your sister has a lot of faith in me. We both do, though Maeve's more vocal about it. He checked his watch. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. Dinner at 8? I'll be ready. He started to leave, then turned back. Isla, I love you. The words still made my heart stutter, even after hearing them dozens of times. I love you too. He smiled, that private smile that was just for me, and left. I gathered my materials, riding the high of a successful presentation. 6 months ago, I'd been too afraid to make eye contact with Cormac Brennan. Now I was presenting to his board and dating him openly. Life was strange, but in the best possible way. Cormac. The restaurant was exactly as pretentious as its 6-month wait list suggested. White tablecloths, crystal stemware, a wine list that read like a novel. The kind of place I'd normally avoid, but Isla had mentioned it once, and I'd filed the information away. She arrived at 8 on the dot, wearing a black dress that made her look like she'd walked off a magazine cover. Her hair was up, showing off the necklace I'd given her for her birthday, a simple pendant with her birthstone. Every eye in the restaurant tracked her as the hostess led her to our table. She didn't notice. That was one of the things I loved about her. She'd gained so much confidence in herself, but she'd never become arrogant about it. This place is beautiful, she said, settling into her chair. How did you actually get a reservation? I know people. You bribed someone. I prefer to think of it as strategic resource allocation. She laughed, and I felt the sound in my chest like always. We ordered wine, appetizers, fell into the easy conversation that had become our normal. She told me about Caroline's reaction to the board meeting. She actually hugged me. I didn't know what to do. I told her about the investor call that had gone sideways. He wanted us to pivot to cryptocurrency. I told him to pivot into the sea. It was comfortable, easy. Everything I'd never thought I'd have again. Halfway through the main course, I pulled out the envelope I'd been carrying all day. "I have something for you," I said. "Cormac, the reservation and champagne are already too much. It's not a gift, it's a proposition." I slid the envelope across the table. "Open it." She did, pulling out the documents inside. Her eyes widened as she read. This is a VP position. VP of Strategic Expansion. You've proven you can do the work. The board presentation today sealed it. I want to create this position for you. But I've only been a senior analyst for 6 months. And you've done more in those 6 months than most people do in 5 years. You've identified 3 new markets, developed expansion strategies for 2 of them, and your board presentation got unanimous approval. I leaned forward. You've earned this, Isla. Not because you're dating me. Caroline and the executive team all agreed you're the right choice, because you're brilliant at what you do. She was quiet, reading through the job description, the salary, a number that made her inhale sharply, the benefits. This is a lot of responsibility, she said finally. I know. Can you handle it? She looked up at me, eyes bright. Yes, absolutely yes. Good. Then you start in 2 weeks. HR will handle the paperwork. 2 weeks? But I need to. Transition your current projects, yes. Caroline's already aware. She's happy for you, by the way. Said it's about time someone recognized your potential. Isla set down the documents, reached across the table for my hand. Thank you for seeing what I could be, even when I couldn't see it myself. I just saw what was already there. Still, thank you. We finished dinner, lingered over dessert, and finally left around 11. The night was cool, early spring in Boston, and we walked hand in hand through the quiet streets. Can I tell you something? Isla said as we walked. Always. A year ago, I was terrified. Of you, of my job, of my own shadow. I couldn't imagine a future where I felt safe or valued or loved. She stopped, turned to face me. And now I have all of that. Because you saw what was happening and cared enough to stop it. You did the hard part. You survived. You fought back. You rebuilt yourself. We rebuilt me, together. She touched my face. I know I say this a lot, but I love you, Cormac Brennan, more than I thought I could love anyone. I love you too, I said, and I promise you, you'll never have to be afraid again, not while I'm here. Big promise. I'm good at keeping promises. Yes, she agreed, smiling. You are. I kissed her there on the street corner, under the glow of streetlights, in the city where we'd both learned that sometimes the people you're most afraid of are actually the ones who'll save you. Isla. 1 year later, the gallery opening was Maeve's idea. You need to show your work, she'd insisted for months. You're good, Isla, really good. People should see it. I'd resisted at first. Painting was private, therapeutic, something I did for myself. But eventually, she'd worn me down. And now I stood in a small gallery in the South End, surrounded by 20 watercolors that documented my journey over the past 18 months. Some were dark, swirling grays and blacks from the Eliot days. Others were lighter, soft blues and greens as I healed. The newest pieces were bright, almost joyful. Yellows and oranges and pinks that captured what it felt like to finally be free. This one's my favorite, Maeve said, stopping in front of a large piece titled After. It showed 2 figures, abstract, barely defined, standing together at the edge of something bright and undefined, hopeful. Mine too, I admitted. The gallery was filling up. Colleagues from Brennan Corp, friends from Maeve's painting classes, even a few art critics who'd heard about the exhibition. And Cormac, of course, always Cormac. He stood across the room, talking to a journalist who'd asked to do a piece on my work. He caught my eye and smiled, and I felt that familiar warmth spread through my chest. We'd been together officially for 1.5 years now. Living together for 6 months, after I'd finally admitted that keeping separate apartments was pointless when I spent every night at his place anyway. It was easy, comfortable, everything I'd never thought I'd have. Isla Hayes? I turned, a woman in her 30s, professional looking, holding a glass of wine. Yes? I'm Jennifer Ward. I used to work at Brennan Corp. for Elliott Vance. My stomach dropped. Jennifer, the assistant before me, one of Elliott's previous victims. Jennifer, it's good to meet you. I wanted to thank you, she said quietly, for speaking up, for going public. I couldn't do it. I was too afraid, too ashamed. But watching you stand up to him, watching you tell the truth, it helped me finally process what happened to me. I'm so sorry you went through that. I'm sorry you did too. But I'm glad you fought back. Glad he's facing consequences. She paused. He's in federal prison now, 3 years for embezzlement. They found evidence he'd been stealing from the company for almost a decade. I heard. Elliott's sentencing had made headlines 3 months ago. I'd felt nothing but relief. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you, and that your work is beautiful. You've turned your pain into something meaningful. She moved on before I could respond, leaving me standing there with tears in my eyes. Cormac appeared at my side immediately. You okay? Yeah, better than okay. I leaned into him. That was Jennifer Ward. She thanked me. You gave her something important, validation, justice, the knowledge that she wasn't alone. We gave her that. You started the investigation. And you had the courage to testify. We're a team, remember? I smiled. Best team I've ever been on. The evening wound down around midnight. Maeve had sold 6 paintings, which she declared a massive success. Critics had been cautiously positive. And I'd spent 3 hours talking to strangers about my work, my story, my journey. I was exhausted but happy. Cormac drove us home. The brownstone we'd bought together last month. A 3-bedroom with space for a home office, and a real studio for my painting. I'm proud of you, he said as we got ready for bed. You put yourself out there tonight. That took guts. I learned from the best. I climbed into bed beside him, curled into his warmth. Thank you for being here, for all of it. Where else would I be? I don't know. Running your empire, making millions, being intimidating. I can be intimidating from home. I'm multi-talented. I laughed, kissed him. Yes, you are. We lay in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. Then Cormac spoke. Isla, there's something I want to ask you. Okay. He sat up, turned on the bedside lamp, suddenly looked nervous in a way I'd never seen before. I've been thinking about this for months, waiting for the right time, the right moment. But I've realized there's no perfect moment. There's just now. He reached into his nightstand drawer and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. Isla Hayes, you walked into my life afraid and broken, and you've spent the past 2 years becoming the strongest, most incredible person I've ever known. You've challenged me, changed me, made me believe in things I thought I'd lost forever. He opened the box, revealing a ring. Simple, elegant, exactly what I would have chosen. I don't want to imagine my life without you in it, so I'm asking, will you marry me? Tears streamed down my face, happy tears, healing tears. Yes, I whispered. Yes, absolutely yes. He slipped the ring on my finger, and I threw my arms around him, laughing and crying at the same time. I love you, I said against his neck. I love you so much. I love you too. He pulled back to look at me. We'll do it right this time. Big wedding, all our friends. Your choice on everything, whatever you want. I just want you, I said. Everything else is details. Then you have me. For the rest of our lives. We kissed, and I felt the last pieces of the fear I'd carried for so long finally fall away. I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of him, not of myself, not of the future. Elliott Vance had tried to break me. Instead, he'd inadvertently led me to the man who'd helped me become whole. And that, I thought as Cormac pulled me close, was the best revenge of all. Cormac. 2 years later, the wedding was small by most standards. Just 100 people in a garden overlooking the ocean. Isla wore a simple white dress that made her look ethereal. Her hair was down, flowers woven through it, and she was smiling so wide I thought my heart might actually burst. Maeve stood beside her as maid of honor, crying openly. Patrick was my best man, looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo but grinning anyway. And when the officiant asked if I took Isla to be my wife, I didn't hesitate. I do. And do you, Isla, take Cormac to be your husband? I do. We exchanged rings, new ones, chosen together, symbols of a marriage built on choice rather than fear. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. I pulled Isla into my arms and kissed her, while our friends cheered. When we broke apart, she was crying again. Happy tears? I asked. The happiest, she confirmed. The reception was perfect. Good food, better wine, dancing under string lights as the sun set over the water. At one point, I found Isla standing alone, looking out at the ocean. I came up behind her, wrapped my arms around her waist. You okay, Mrs. Brennan? I'm perfect, Mr. Brennan. She leaned back against me. Just thinking about how different my life is now. How 2 years ago I couldn't have imagined being this happy. Neither could I. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't noticed, if you just believed Elliot's lies about me? Every day. And every day I'm grateful I looked closer. She turned in my arms. Thank you for seeing me, for saving me. I didn't save you, Isla. You saved yourself. I just gave you the space to do it. Then thank you for the space. Always. We stood there as the party continued behind us, watching the waves crash against the shore, holding each other in the gathering dark. Two people who'd been broken and afraid. Two people who'd found each other and decided to be brave. Two people who'd learned that sometimes the things you fear most are actually your salvation. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that I'd spend the rest of my life making sure Isla never felt afraid again. Because she deserved that. She deserved everything. And I was going to make damn sure she got it. The end.